Almighty God, we, the representatives of the citizens of the City of Brisbane, are assembled here to strive and care for the welfare of our city and all its people. Lord, we ask that you guide us in the decisions we make today. Amen. Amen. Brisbane City Council acknowledges this country and its traditional custodians. We acknowledge and respect the spiritual relationship between traditional custodians and this country, which has inspired language, songs, dances, law and dreaming stories over many thousands of years. We pay our respects to the elders, those who have passed into the dreaming, those here today, those of tomorrow. May we continue to peacefully walk together in gratitude, respect and kindness in caring for this country and one another. Please be seated. I declare the meeting open. Are there any apologies? Councillor Collier.
Chair, I advise that Councillor Griffiths will be absent today and I move that they be granted a leave of absence.
Seconded.
It has been moved by Councillor Collier and seconded by Councillor Cassidy that Councillor Griffiths be granted a leave of absence from today's meeting. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against no. The ayes have it. Confirmation of minutes, please.
Chair, I move that the minutes of the 4,757th meeting held on Tuesday, the 18th of February 2025 be received, taken as read and confirmed.
Seconded.
It has been moved by Councillor Dixon and seconded by Councillor Givney that the minutes of the 4,757th meeting of Council held on the 18th of February 2025 be received, taken as read and confirmed. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against no. The ayes have it. I would like to call on Mr Simon Fennick, who will address the chamber today on Fruit to Work. Please proceed, Mr Fennick. You have 5 minutes.
Madam Chair, Lord Mayor and councillors, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Simon Fennick and I am the General Manager and Director of Fruit to Work. Before I share about this incredible social enterprise, I would like to take you on a journey, my journey. My life took a devastating turn when I was involved in a workplace accident that severely damaged my lower spine. The doctors prescribed various medications, but nothing seemed to work. In search of relief, I turned to methamphetamine, the drug ice. During my struggle with addiction, I experienced unimaginable loss. My father passed away, my brother passed away, my mother passed away, and then my daughter passed away. In the depths of despair, I attempted to take my own life 5 times. Eventually, my addiction led me to prison for dealing ice. At the time, it was a place where I deserved to be. When I was released from prison, I faced yet another challenge, finding a job. Nobody would hire me. I was hungry, I was broke and hopeless. That's when Fruit to Work changed my life. I started packing and delivering fruit, grateful for the opportunity. Over time, I was promoted to Operations Manager, and today I stand before you as General Manager and Director. More importantly, today I am a father and a contributing member of society, helping creating opportunities for others in our community. All because somebody gave me a chance. What is Fruit to Work? Fruit to Work is a non-for-profit social enterprise that provides meaningful transitional employment for individuals impacted by the justice system. We supply fruit, milk, pantry items and vending machines from business to business. Every dollar earned goes back into the community, creating more opportunities for people just like me. We have been in operation in Victoria for 8.5 years, serving over 1,900 customers. In that time, not one single person that has joined our program has reoffended. In Australia today, 1 in 2 people being released from prison will go back within 2 years. We've had nobody go back to prison. To date, we have 117 employees, successfully transitioned over 200 employees back into the community as returning citizens, and now we are bringing that success to Queensland. Our impact in Queensland, since launching in April, we have actively been working to be part of the solution to crime and recidivism. Whilst we are not experts in youth crime, we are experts in helping rebuild parents' lives. When mum and dad get it right, they can look after their own children. The ripple effect is very powerful. Here's what we've accomplished so far. We are based in Archerfield, delivering as far as Tweed Heads and the South Coast. Our produce comes out of the Rocklea market and our milk is sourced from Norco. We already serve over 240 businesses in Queensland, and every dollar spent in Queensland stays in Queensland for Queenslanders. We have already transitioned 8 people back into the community and we're finalists in the Lord Mayor's Awards, Business Awards for 2024. We are members of the Queensland Social Enterprise Council, certified for People Planet First. But Fruit to Work is more than just employment. We provide wraparound supports for our team, including an in-house forensic psychologist, a Building a Better You program, and a financial literacy model. When someone stumbles, we don't turn our back, we help them back up. Our ask is to help create more opportunities. We are not here asking for donations. We are asking for connection. As influential leaders in the community, we need your help to introduce Fruit to Work to more businesses. We are a volume-driven business. The more fruit, milk and pantry items we sell, the more lives we can change. Help us be part of the solution. Help us reduce crime, lower recidivism and make Queensland a safer place. Madam Chair, Lord Mayor and councillors, help us make a difference in this beautiful state you call home. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Fennick. Deputy Mayor, would you care to respond?
Thanks, Madam Chair, and thank you so much, Simon, for joining us today and for sharing with us your heartbreaking story and the journey that you've been on. It was really humbling to hear about your personal experiences and the growth that you've been on. So thank you for sharing that with us. As you might know, I'm the Chair of Finance and City Governance for Brisbane City Council, and that includes our procurement, but also importantly our social procurement, of which the Lord Mayor has a big focus on each and every year. So we maintain our social procurement program each year, and we're really pleased to be able to step that up more and more. We've continued to support local social enterprise and sharing wonderful cases with our community and businesses in Brisbane. When we first started going out for procurement with social enterprise, there was just a small number of organisations in our city that did it, but over the years we've seen their capacity grow and as well our own capacity to support those enterprises. So I'm really pleased to be able to connect you with our social procurement team and look forward to continuing this conversation and ways that we can build those connections that you've talked about today, and ways that we can as well in our own communities introduce you to other businesses who may be able to support and work alongside you. So once again, thank you very much for taking your time out of your day to come and share your story with us. It's really appreciated.
Thank you. It was an honour.
Thank you very much, Mr Fennick, for coming in today. And if councillors would like to have one of Mr Fennick's business cards, they're there on the book when you sign in. We'll now move to question time. Are there any questions of the Lord Mayor or Civic Cabinet Chair of any of the standing committees? Councillor Wong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is to the Chair of the Finance and City Governance Committee, the Deputy Mayor. Deputy Mayor, residents know that the Brisbane Council is committed to a fair and reasonable pay rise for council employees while also keeping costs down. Can you please update the Chamber on the impact of ongoing industrial action?
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'd like to thank Councillor Huang for the question. Last week, as you'll recall, Councillor Murphy updated the Chamber about the bus union's decision to commence work stoppages in our bus driver workforce. It follows Council's ongoing good faith negotiations with several unions over our new enterprise bargaining agreement. The Shrina Council is committed to keeping Brisbane moving, and to do that, we need the support of a strong and a dedicated workforce. While Council has been negotiating in good faith since July 2024, the union's deliberate delaying tactics are costing employees a well-deserved pay increase. Council is offering a fair and reasonable pay rise of 7% over 2 years, including 3.75% in the first year, which is more than double the current rate of inflation in Brisbane. Nurses, doctors and police, in fact, received 3% in their last pay deal. Our bargaining approach is all about striking a balance, Madam Chair. And we're striking a balance with a fair and a reasonable pay offer that ensures we're keeping costs down for Brisbane residents and keeping Brisbane moving. Last Thursday, the bus union went ahead with 2 one-hour-long work stoppages between 4 and 6 a.m. In response to these stoppages, our council worked to reduce the impact on Brisbane commuters. We rostered drivers not participating in the strike action to pick up the missed trips, and we warned the public about the impacts this strike action could have on their morning commute. Thankfully, Thursday's strike action had minimal impacts on the network. Flow-on negative effects during the morning peak period did not occur, as was initially predicted. Thank you to all the bus drivers who did show up to work, despite union pressure, ensuring that 80% of trips were completed despite the union strike. They chose to keep our community connected and to keep Brisbane moving. Following this union action on Thursday, both unions and council were scheduled to continue negotiations on the EBA that afternoon. It's incredibly disappointing. Bus union bosses notified us of a planned peak hour strike just 30 minutes before we returned to the negotiating table with them. 30 minutes prior to entering in negotiations, Madam Chair. Union bosses have now pushed this planned peak hour strike action to this Friday afternoon between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. I urge residents to again arrange alternative travel plans this Friday, with the disruptive peak hour strikes expected to impact more than 75,000 people across more than 3,000 bus services. While traffic and bus impacts were minimal during last Thursday morning's strike action, afternoon peak hour impacts will be far more widespread, with around 6 times the number of bus services potentially impacted. Council will continue to rely on bus drivers not participating in strike action to minimise impacts on commuters. To avoid long delays and disruptions, residents are urged to make alternative travel arrangements from 4 p.m. this Friday, as disruptions to afternoon peak hour could cause significant impacts right across our network, Madam Chair. Bus union bosses aren't just disrupting Brisbane residents heading home for the weekend. They're also disrupting thousands of people heading to Boondall to see Chris Stapleton, a 10-time Grammy Award winner and one of the world's biggest country music stars, play to a sold-out crowd. The Services Union has also notified Council of their intent to stop work this Thursday afternoon, which will impact library services and wait times when contacting the Council call centre. Unfortunately, union bosses are standing in the way of a very generous pay offer for our hard-working council workers while holding Brisbane commuters to ransom. In fact, Madam Chair, unions are directly costing hard-working bus drivers $131,000 every week with this action. Our offer of a 7% pay rise over 2 years is fair and reasonable. And importantly, it strikes a balance between keeping costs down and keeping Brisbane moving. We are committed to spending within our means, Madam Chair, while delivering the services that our city needs, and we will continue to negotiate in good faith.
Further questions? Councillor Kim.
My question is to the Chair of the City Planning and Suburban Renewal Committee. When the Lord Mayor launched the Brisbane app in 2021, he said it was worth the $4 million it cost because it would help struggling small businesses across Brisbane. This year, the LNP announced a 10% increase on fees and charges, a 51% increase in advertising fees, and added a $111 special renewal fee for small businesses. You've now totally given up on the Brisbane app this year. Why do you care more about flashy announcements than practical solutions for small businesses?
Councillor Allen.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to Councillor Kim for her misguided question, because that's not related to my portfolio. Thank you.
Point of order.
Point of order. Councillor Cassidy.
That question was directly related to Councillor Allen's portfolio, because he has carriage of the Brisbane Economic Development Agency, who has carriage of the Brisbane app, so he's required under the Meetings Local Law to answer that question. He can take it on notice, but he needs to answer it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Allen answered the question. Councillor Toomey.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Point of order.
Point of order, Councillor Cassidy.
Councillor Allen did not answer the question as he's required to under the Meetings Local Law. Therefore, he engaged in unsuitable meeting conduct, and you should take action.
No, Councillor Cassidy. He gave his answer. What was it? He said that it wasn't a question he could answer. Councillor Toomey.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My question is to the Chair of the Infrastructure Committee, Councillor Wines. Councillor Wines, the Australian Council is keeping Brisbane moving by providing a more convenient and flexible payment options for on-street parking. Can you please update the Chamber on what residents can expect from on-street parking in the future?
Councillor Wines.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you to Councillor Toomey for his question. And can I remind this Council that the Schrinner administration has been committed to modernising, improving and simplifying how people interact with on-street parking meters for some time. Over recent years, we've removed paper receipts, we've removed the push-in and pull-out credit card devices, and we've also made it that you can no longer use coins. These were the three things that would routinely break inside a parking meter on the street. There was a decision made as a result of COVID and everybody being forced to check in at all of the places that they were travelling to, that the time for modernisation of how the public interact with our parking meters and our metered spaces was ready for modernisation, which brought us to encouraging people to use pay-by-app services. So now more than 50% of all purchases of on-street parking in metered spaces is done through an app. At this point, that app is provided to Council by one provider. In the coming days, we'll be engaging with the market to expand the offering and bring in new options for the public to be able to use a range of apps to buy the time in our metered spaces, both here in the city and in the suburban locations. So the contract with our current provider is coming to its natural conclusion, and as part of our commitment to convenience and to ensuring that users of these spaces have choice in the company that they use, we will be providing our customers options. Now, there are a number of operators in the market at the moment. We suspect there'll be strong interest in participating in this. So just to simplify that again, in the name of simplification and modernisation, we are allowing consumers options, convenience and choice, and they will be able to buy their time in these metered spaces using the apps within the framework of their choice, not merely the one that we have recommended. So can I also say, just for context, there are roughly speaking 8,350 metered spaces controlled by Brisbane City. Those spaces are controlled using a range of meters. Now, to go back to that earlier point I was making, a decision was made that we would modernise the system, and therefore we would not be replacing the existing meters. They are reducing down in number as each component part is used to sustain the existing meters. That means the park by app process will become more commonplace, and we need it to be easier and more convenient for as many residents as possible to use that. So as I say, we've been on quite a journey to this place, and I am really happy to be able to say that we are engaging the market, bringing in new options, providing clarity and consistency and reliability into our system. Now, the multiple pay suppliers will deliver a new and improved technology and choice and flexibility, as I've said before. And when we consider how many people use these apps, it is really important that the choice is provided, that the options given, that the convenience provided by those apps is of a high quality, and that we as I must take the moment to remind all councillors that these apps are used by us to provide what is a fundamental council offering, which is on-street parking. One of the things I think we should dwell on for only a moment is that one of the objectives of metered parking is to have turnover, is to ensure that those spaces change over at a regular interval to provide those spaces for oftentimes retail businesses to provide ease of access to those businesses. So I am really proud to be able to say that we are moving to, I suppose, a new era where we expand our offering, where we make it easier for people. We embrace a modern, yet simple and improved engagement for the customer, the ratepayer, both ratepayers, residents and visitors, to use the app of their choice in the space of their choice as we continue to reduce the number of parking metres in the city to reflect a modernising use of our metered spaces and to reflect a marketplace that is more consistent with what we would expect as consumers as well. So I look forward to this process. The market engagement will begin very soon. We will have this expanded offering within months for the people of Brisbane.
Councillor Chongwa.
Thank you, Chair. My question is to the Lord Mayor. I was recently contacted by the body corporate of a new award-winning apartment in McDougall Street, Milton, which had been settled in late 2022. This building of 181 units with an estimated 300 residents experienced flooding at ground level late last year. I requested that Council immediately investigate if there were blocked drains or inadequate infrastructure. Council's response was the drainage was clean and clear and that there was no drainage issues that require further work. Lord Mayor, you said on December 16th that the only real solution for flooding in some areas would be for everyone to move out. There's no drain that can fix it. Lord Mayor, as an advocate for new high-rises apartments in our worst flood zones, what will you say to these 300 residents that will no doubt be experiencing even worse flooding into the future?
Lord Mayor.
Thank you for the question. Look, that question would actually be best directed to one of your colleagues, Elizabeth Watson-Brown, who designed a high-rise building in a high-risk flood zone, i.e. on the Brisbane River. And she pointed out very clearly that with good design, you can limit impacts on building services, on habitable floor areas, and in fact, you can limit flooding to the areas that are non-essential. And that's exactly what we require of all new buildings in flood zones. The idea that you can just stop people building in well-established, long-developed areas is not practical and not reasonable. Elizabeth Watson-Brown knows that you can build high-rise buildings in flood zones if you design them right. She's been very active on social media, actually, in response to the former Deputy Mayor, Krista Adams, in defending her high-rise building next to Customs House that she designed and bought several apartments in. And so it is quite possible.
Sorry, Lord Mayor, I asked you what you'd say to these 300 residents that will no doubt be experiencing even worse flooding into the future.
Councillor, the Lord Mayor has time to answer that question, which he is doing. Councillors, please remain quiet while councillors are speaking. Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Well, in terms of new buildings, this one, Councillor Chongwa claimed was a relatively new building, built in Milton. And if it is a new building, then it would have been built to our highest flood standards when it comes to flood resilience. And as I said, that means that any flooding that may occur in the area would not impact on people's habitable areas, so i.e. in their living areas, in where their bedrooms and kitchens are, and in fact would go into areas potentially such as basements or entryways, but the building would have been designed for this to occur. And the other thing that is very clear is that we make it very transparent and easy for people to get access to flood data. And so if you are buying a home or a unit in a flood zone, all of the information about the flood risk is there. And so these are previously well-established areas where we know that they can experience flooding and do experience flooding, but with the right building designs, the buildings can be built in a resilient way. See, the thing about Milton, which makes it special, and the reason why these several hundred people have moved in there, it's a great area. It is a fantastic area. Great place to live. Close to everything, great infrastructure, great facilities. So good you can even smell the 4X in the air. It's a great place to live. And so they knew what a great place it was to live. They also had access to our flood data, which we provide freely, and they bought into a building which should have been designed to the highest flood resilience standards as well. And so we can't eliminate flooding, but we can limit the impacts. We can make buildings more resilient. But if we don't build new buildings in inner city locations like Milton or even the CBD, Kurilpa, then where are we building them? The destruction of bushland in the outer suburbs is the alternative. Yeah. People being consigned to suburbs with limited public transport, stuck in traffic for half their life, whereas the people in Milton have great access to a great suburb and great facilities. And so these are all about making sure we find the right balance. As I said, and I've been quite clear, we can't eliminate flood risk, but we can build more resiliently. We can provide information to people about where the flood risk is. They can make informed choices when they buy. And knowing that Milton or parts of Milton can flood, make an informed choice about whether they want to move into that suburb. But I didn't hear Councillor Chongwa say that any residents had their homes flooded. It's just that part of the building was impacted. And so that could have been, well, the way that the building was designed, if it's been designed to the flood resilience standards. Look, I'm not specifically familiar with that specific example, but I do know that new buildings, we require them to be built at a high level of flood resilience, and I certainly expect that this one in Milton would have been done according to those standards.
Further questions? Councillor Huang.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is to the Chair of the Finance and City Governance Committee, the Deputy Mayor. Deputy Mayor, while the Srinagar Council has been focused on balancing the budget to take pressure off household rates and rents, the former State Labor government have been doing anything but this. Can you update the Chamber on the impact to ratepayers and renters in Brisbane from credit rating downgrades at state government level?
Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and thanks to Councillor Huang for this important question. You see, because following the Queensland Government's mid-year economic and fiscal review, which represents State Labor's last budget update, the credit rating agency S&P has announced an outlook downgrade for Queensland's credit rating. Previously rated AA+ stable, Queensland's credit rating outlook has now been adjusted down to AA+ negative, representing a concerning financial trajectory for our state, all thanks to the former State Labor government. While the full financial impact of this outlook downgrade is yet to be fully determined, one thing is clear. Queensland's borrowing costs will rise, and as a direct result, Council's borrowing costs will also rise. There will be a substantial impact on the financial obligations of councils who bear the brunt of State Labor's financial mismanagement through increased borrowing and interest costs. This credit rating outlook downgrade is a very real financial burden that all Queenslanders, including Brisbane ratepayers, will have to carry in years to come. And Stephen Miles and State Labor had plenty of warning, Madam Chair. That's the truth of it. In June 2024, S&P released a paper called Queensland's Budget Erodes Rating Headroom. It said, and I quote for the benefit of the chamber, "Fiscal discipline, revenue headwinds and a growing infrastructure pipeline are eroding the buffer for our rating on Queensland." End quote. In September of the same year, more calls were ignored by the former state Labor government when S&P reported on Labor's last state budget. It's very clear that state Labor ignored repeated credit rating outlook warnings, leaving Queenslanders to pay a higher price. In December, when the new Treasurer reported on Labor's last budget update, it confirmed Labor's debt legacy is now on path to reach $218 billion, showing Labor can't be trusted to manage finances at any level of government. And on credit rating metrics, the state's mid-year economic and fiscal review confirmed that Queensland's performance was equivalent or inferior to other states that had already been downgraded. In stark contrast, Madam Chair, Council has been rated strong with a neutral outlook from Queensland Treasury Corporation since 2012-13. And our credit rating and outlook was reaffirmed in November 24 following our annual review for the 12th consecutive year. However, Council cannot hold a credit rating higher than the state government, and so any downgrade to the state's credit rating results in a downgrade to Council's credit rating. It's a final insult from state Labor after a decade of deficit and deceit and disrespect for taxpayers' money. This result will increase interest payments and borrowing costs on Council's new borrowings. Initial forecasts suggest that should the state government's credit rating now be downgraded in 24-25, this could amount to $100,000 in extra borrowing costs to our council. And Madam Chair, over the next decade, this additional cost to Council could range from between $10 million up to a whopping $30 million. This is a cost to ratepayers, all thanks to state Labor completely ignoring repeated credit rating outlook warnings. Our balanced budget, on the other hand, has weathered the impacts of a pandemic and a flood. We're keeping it balanced to weather the impacts of a global inflation crisis. But we're now forced to combat state Labor's budget mismanagement as well. Imagine if the Green Labor coalition of chaos, who made $3.5 billion worth of unfunded promises during the election, were elected last year. Council spending would have had to increase by a staggering 20%, and Labor would have inflicted one of the largest rate rises in our city's history on ratepayers. This recent downgrade of the state's credit rating outlook demonstrates Labor's reckless mismanagement of public money, which will cost every Queenslander. Residents are now stuck with the burden of a decade of state Labor budget mismanagement, chaos and crisis.
Deputy Mayor, your time has expired. Further questions? Councillor Johnston.
Yes, thank you. My question is to the Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, on the 13th of November, well over 3 months ago, I logged 2 jobs with Council in Ensign Street in Annerley. This relates to completely blocked footpaths that are covered with downed trees, tree branches, weeds and other debris. They are completely blocking the footpath in this location. In early December, the drain across the road was flooded because it blocked up because of all the debris being washed into the drain and caused localised floodings to homes in Annerley that have never ever flooded. More than 3 months on, Council has still not cleaned up this area and it has missed its KPI by months. Lord Mayor, why is it that Council does not have the resources and the capability under your leadership to clean up our suburbs when asked?
Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. I certainly dispute that Council doesn't have the resources or funding to clean up important local issues, but certainly happy to have a look at this one. I'm not familiar with it. you know, there's often more to the story when we hear issues like this raised, and so be happy to look into it to find out what's going on there and make sure that Councillor Johnson gets a report back on what's happening.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Point of order, Councillor Johnston.
Madam Chair, I table the images and the log jobs.
Further questions? Councillor Parry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is to the Chair of the Communities and the Arts Committee, Councillor Howard. Councillor Howard, the Shrinner Council is helping to keep residents, businesses and community groups safer in our communities through the Safer Suburbs program. Can you please update the Chamber on the latest resources being provided as part of this important initiative?
Councillor Howard.
Well, thank you, Chair, and through you I thank Councillor Parry for the question. As we're all aware, crime throughout Brisbane and particularly in our suburbs is a growing problem. The former Labor state government allowed crime to spiral out of control, and our local community clubs are just one of the many victims of this youth crime crisis. Vandalism and crime at our local clubs steadily increased under the former Labor state government. In the 2023-24 financial year alone, there were 15 instances of vandalism and crime at our community clubs reported to Council. This is up from 7 in the 2022-23 financial year and just 2 in the 2021-22 financial year. Chermside Bowls Club has had both their till floats stolen in a robbery. This money is crucial to keeping the club running and this community facility available to local residents. They are certainly not alone. Mitchelton Football Club has had a number of recent crime incidents, including vandalism, theft and sporting fields laid with new turf being deliberately destroyed by cars during burnouts. This is not to mention all the community clubs that have been broken into and had their copper wire stolen or cut. These are not isolated instances, Chair. These are deliberate, repeated incidents that have been allowed to fester because of Labor's weak position on crime. The former Labor government repeatedly demonstrated their blatant complacency and inability to keep our suburbs safe. Thankfully, Queenslanders are no longer subject to the lazy and arrogant Labor government. The Crisafulli government has already completed all 43 key commitments in their ambitious 100-day plan, including the passing of the Making Queensland Safer laws. In just 100 days, the Crisafulli government has already delivered more action to tackle youth crime than Labor did in the last decade. And just 2 weeks ago, the Crisafulli government appointed an expert legal panel to provide advice on the next stages to reform Queensland's Youth Justice Act as part of the second tranche of the Making Queensland Safer laws. Together with the Shrinner Council's new Lord Mayor's Safer Suburbs initiative, our community clubs can finally breathe a sigh of relief. In December, I was pleased to join the Lord Mayor in awarding the first round of grants under the Shrinner Council initiative, with more than $500,000 in funding awarded to a total of 69 community organisations. These grants will help local clubs install items such as security screens, CCTV cameras, new locks, improved patrol services and alarm systems so that they can protect their assets under threat from Labor's crime crisis. In December, we provided Chermside Bowls Club with $10,000 to upgrade their security system and install additional CCTV cameras to help make sure that they don't get broken into again. Wynnum Tennis Association received $9,000 to engage nightly patrols and install security cameras to support tennis at Kitchener Park. And Brighton Roosters Junior Rugby League Club received $10,000 to upgrade their alarm system and install security cameras. Chair, these are just 3 examples. There are 66 more clubs that benefited from the Lord Mayor's Safer Suburbs grants awarded in December. One of the key issues impacting Queenslanders is crime. Where Labor fails Brisbane residents, the Shrinner Council and the Crisafulli government will continue to step up. In addition to the Lord Mayor's Safer Suburbs grants, next month we will be delivering free crime prevention seminars for council-leased clubs and facilities. Keeping our community clubs safe is important to make sure they can continue to deliver for our communities, which is why we've partnered with the Queensland Police Service and Crime Stoppers Queensland to deliver these free sessions right across the city. There will be 6 sessions held at locations in Wynnum, Zilmere, Ashgrove, Kenmore, Carindale and Durack that will introduce clubs to useful contacts within Council, Crime Stoppers Queensland and QPS who are committed to keeping our suburbs safe. These free sessions will help clubs learn crime prevention strategies by providing detailed information, support and resources to safeguard facilities against the impact of crime. The QPS will be teaching clubs about their recommended layered security approach and CCTV to address crime issues such as vandalism, copper theft, graffiti, illegal dumping, arson, break and enters. The Schrinner Council is committed to making Brisbane's lifestyle even better, and that is why we will always invest in our community clubs. Thank you.
Further questions? Councillor Collier.
Thanks very much, Chair. I guess as Councillor Allen not really quite sure what his job is, I'll direct my question to the Deputy Mayor. Deputy Mayor, in the most recent budget, small businesses across Brisbane copped a $111 special renewal fee, a 51% increase to advertising fees, a 30% increase for food stall licences, a 667% increase in footpath dining permits and a 10% increase in all fees and charges. Could these increases have been avoided if you didn't waste more than $4 million on the Brisbane app, which you've now given up on and no one really uses anymore?
Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and congratulations to Councillor Collier for finally getting the correct chair right, because I'm surprised she didn't put 2 and 2 together, because DCX and our digital services that we talk about in the finance portfolio has been the subject of many committee presentations, of which she now attends. So it was a little surprising that she didn't put that 2 and 2 together there. Anyway, pleased to answer this question, Madam Chair, because it's no secret, in fact, that we're improving our digital services in Council, and it's something that we've spoken about for many times. And I'm really proud of the Brisbane app, because not one single dollar of that is wasted. And I'll tell you why it's not wasted, because it's supporting small business in Brisbane. It's putting money back into the pockets of the hundreds of thousands of small businesses that are in our wards right across the suburbs. You know, I think about my own example in Coorparoo Ward, and there must be scores of local businesses on the Brisbane app who receive visits from residents all the time because of the Brisbane app promotion. Now, as I said, it's no secret that we're undertaking a project to improve our digital services. There's a huge body of work underway to transform our website, and this is a front door to accessing our council services for residents on a regular basis. The Brisbane app was introduced at a time when our city was going through a pandemic to support small business and to encourage residents to buy local, something that our record in this place is incredibly outstanding. In the last year alone, the Lord Mayor just reminded me of the millions of dollars that we have paid to small business through our local buy strategy. You see, this side of the chamber, Madam Chair, we support small business. This app was introduced at a time, as I said, when our city was in a pandemic, when small business needed our help. And then we had a flood, Madam Chair. Another time when residents of Brisbane needed to get behind and support their small businesses. And why wouldn't we, as a council, do everything we can to support small business in our city? It was an initiative and a project of the Economic Recovery Task Force, and it has showcased Brisbane businesses to our visitors as well as residents. We believe in transparency on this side of the chamber, Madam Chair, and we demonstrate that week in and week out. And so, just recently, the opposition received answers to this question on notice about the Brisbane app. So let's talk about those answers, because the data that we have shared clearly demonstrates that the app is still being downloaded on a regular basis
And for an application which is now nearly 5 years old, the statistics are extremely encouraging and provide a platform of which to expand our digital offering. We have engagement with the app, like any app, which fluctuates. But we're proud of it, and we're proud to be continuously striving to make our resources better for Brisbane residents and for Brisbane businesses that rely on this app for new customers. We can't lose sight of the fact, though, Madam Chair, that this app was introduced at a time in our city to support small business, and I'm incredibly proud of the progress that it's made, the people who continue to use the app, the people who continue to download the app, and I look forward, Madam Chair, to the opportunity to expand those offerings to not only the residents of Brisbane, but to the visitors who come to our wonderful city and who want to spend money to support small business in our city. And I absolutely commend the app to this chamber.
Further questions? Councillor Dixon.
My question is to the Chair of the Communities and the Arts Committee, Councillor Howard. Councillor Howard, the Strinner Council is making Brisbane's lifestyle even better by investing in our city's much-loved entertainment venues. Can you please update the chamber on the latest project we have delivered to upgrade Brisbane's iconic river stage?
Councillor Howard.
Well, thank you, Chair, and through you, I thank Councillor Dixon for the question. The Strinner Council is committed to making Brisbane's lifestyle even better, and this latest upgrade is just one of the many ways that we are delivering on that commitment. River Stage is a real draw card for bands and musicians all over the globe. An outdoor venue on the banks of the iconic Brisbane River, right in the middle of the CBD. There is a reason why bands keep coming back for more. We have had a record number of bookings this financial year, with 41 events scheduled over 2024-25. We've already had a star-studded lineup of concerts including Tones and I, Lime Cordial, Amy Shark, Empire of the Sun, Hosier, Leon Bridges, and I know there are a few listening out there who particularly enjoyed The Cause last week. We love to hear from the many bands that have graced the River Stage who tell us how much they love playing there, how unique the venue is, and how great it is to play to an open-air audience. I can also tell you my daughter goes along quite a lot. It's not only an asset for the many bands and music lovers that flock to River Stage every year, it also attracts thousands of patrons to the many local businesses in and around the CBD. In October last year, the Strinner Council secured 2 new contracts for River Stage, a new ticketing contract and a new bar services contract, which are already delivering better value for the ratepayers of Brisbane. We secured a much better return to Council through the ticketing contract, and as part of the bar services contract that was awarded to Northbourne Events Group, we have secured an exciting upgrade to Brisbane's most iconic entertainment venue. 8 shipping containers have been converted into a vibrant new bar, enhancing the concert experience at the River Stage. The new 2-storey bar is situated above the hill and gives concert goers a unique advantage point and accessibility to the bar. The top floor of the bar, known as the deck, will provide an exclusive space for concert goers to elevate their concert experience. Fans of Prodigy were the first to experience the new River Stage bar and the deck on the 16th of February during a soft launch which allowed free entry to the deck and put the new facility to the test. I have it on good authority that concert goers have absolutely loved the new offering, with a brand new space to dance, sing and jam to their favourite artists. Once we finish testing through the soft launch, residents and visitors to Brisbane will have the option of a new premium experience to choose an upgraded experience through Ticketek. The best part about it is that it adds extra capacity so that even more people can enjoy their favourite artists in Brisbane's live music venue, with an additional 65 tickets available to every event. Not only that, the deck will also provide a new revenue stream for Council to help offset costs to the ratepayer. Proceeds from the tickets to the deck will go to Council. It's a great outcome for River Stage patrons and for the ratepayer, with this new revenue stream helping to offset costs. The revenue we generate from River Stage helps save ratepayers money whilst growing Brisbane's thriving nighttime economy. This brand new offering at River Stage is just one of the many ways the Shrinner Council is working to make Brisbane's lifestyle even better. Brisbane is Australia's lifestyle capital and continues to capture global attention as one of the best places in the world to visit. Our record of delivering vibrant new precincts like Howard Smith Wharves, West Village, South Bank and Fish Lane have helped shape Brisbane's incredible lifestyle. Parks and playgrounds like Bradbury Park, Hanlon Park and Archerfield Wetlands have created more to see and do in the suburbs. We've also delivered new sports fields like Nudgee Recreational Reserve, and we're spending 89% of our budget in the suburbs to ensure that Brisbane remains the best place to live, work and relax, including $2 summer dips, coffee carts in parks, 20-year vision for Kedron Brook, master planning for the future of Wynnum, Manly and Loder foreshores, working with the federal government to improve the Brighton foreshore, upgrading the Wynnum wading pool, park and playground upgrades right across Brisbane, helping sporting clubs upgrade their lighting so more people can play sport for longer, delivering shade in every Brisbane playground and new and improved dog parks. These commitments create more to see and do in the suburbs to help make Brisbane's lifestyle even better.
Thank you, Councillor Howard. And that now ends question time, councillors. We'll now move
Point of order.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Cassidy.
Sorry.
Point of order.
Thanks very much, Chair. I move that the motion currently lying on the table that Council commits to implementing 10 days reproductive leave for all Council employees now comes off the table.
Seconded.
It has been moved by Councillor Cassidy and seconded by Councillor Collier that the motion from the 7th of May 2024 be taken off the table. This is a procedural motion, so I now put it to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, no. No. The noes have
Division.
it.
Division.
Division has been called by Councillor Cassidy and seconded by Councillor Collier. Ayes to my right and noes to my left. Clerks, please ring the bells. Clerks, please read the result.
Madam Chair, the noes have it, the voting being 7 in favour and 19 against.
The motion is lost. Councillors, please resume your seats. Lord
Point
Mayor,
of order, Chair.
establish. Point of order, Councillor Cassidy.
Thanks very much, Chair. I move that the motion currently lying on the table that this Council requests that the Lord Mayor increase the Pathways Out of Homelessness grant to $5 million per year for the 2025-28 grant program now come off the table.
Seconded.
It has been moved by Councillor Cassidy and seconded by Councillor Collier that the motion from the 14th of May 2024 be taken off the table. This is a procedural motion, so I now put it to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, no. No. The noes have it.
Division.
Division has been called by Councillor Collier and by Councillor Cassidy and seconded by Councillor Collier. Ayes to my right, noes to my left. Clerks, please ring the bells. Clerks, please read the results.
Madam Chair, the noes have it, the voting being 7 in favour and 19 against.
The motion is lost. Councillors, please resume your seats. Lord Mayor, Establishment and Coordination Committee report of the 17th of February 2025.
Madam Chair, I move that the report of the Establishment and Coordination Committee meeting held on Monday, 17th of February 2025 be adopted.
Seconded.
It has been moved by the Lord Mayor and seconded by Councillor Dixon that the report of the Establishment and Coordination Committee meeting dated Monday the 17th of February 2025 be adopted.
Seconded.
Sorry, it's already seconded. Thank you. Yep, that's fine. Councillor Dixon seconded. It's okay. Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick rundown of the lighting up of our assets like the Story Bridge, as I usually do. Tonight our assets will be lit in maroon to support the 20th anniversary of the Critical Care Cancer Research Group, which obviously aims to raise awareness and funds to help with emerging cancer treatment research. Tomorrow our assets will be lit in green and blue to raise awareness for eating disorders and people living with not only eating disorders but those living to support or those friends and family of those living with eating disorders as well. On Friday, our assets will be lit in blue to support Rare Disease Day, which is observed every year on the last day of February. On Saturday, our assets will be lit in blue, red and white to support Navy Week 2025. And we had a Navy Week ceremonial sunset and beat to quarters in King George Square on Friday night. Thank you for joining us, Councillor Wolf. And it was fine until the ceremony started, and then it started raining, and then it stopped when the ceremony finished. But it was a great one nonetheless. All of the Navy personnel that were there didn't seem perturbed by a little bit of rain. They have wet feet, and they were fine, and it was great. On Sunday, our assets will be lit in purple to celebrate Queensland Women's Week, and obviously International Women's Day is coming up as well very soon. So we continue to support that, and we're proud to have an administration that has not only 50-50 women, but 65% female representation. Speaking of that, just recently we announced the Lord Mayor's Women in Business grants recent recipients. And so another more than 50 local female-led businesses received funding through this program. We initiated the program as part of our ongoing business support, of which there are many aspects. And we identified, thanks to the help of a number of people that provided advice to us, particularly I want to shout out Fleur Madden as well, who is an amazing and inspirational female entrepreneur in this city. We established this program, and it's now been going on for several years, and it's been delivering some great outcomes. Many people are saying that have received this funding that it's not just the funding that makes a difference, it's the network that they build, it's the support they get from the business hub through BEDA, and a whole range of support and mentoring, but also it's that critical boost of confidence to know that someone has assessed their business in a competitive environment, and this is a highly competitive environment here. Many more applications are received than grants are given out, so there is significant competition, and for them to receive the funding and be awarded in this program gives them that boost of confidence to go to the next level, and we've seen that happen in so many occasions as well. We had the opening of the Stilts restaurant on the Kangaroo Point Bridge just recently as well, and that'll be a fantastic, iconic Brisbane venue, which I think is one of a kind. And together with Mulga Bill's, which is on the banks of the river, serving up great food, These things will generate a return to ratepayers, which will help go towards the ongoing maintenance of the bridge. I want to thank our operator, Michael Tassis, and the Tassis Group for getting that facility up and running. We know they'll do a fantastic job, him and his team. I also want to acknowledge Ross Elliott as well, because it was actually Ross's idea to design a bridge with a restaurant on it. And it was a fantastic idea. When the engineers first heard the idea, they weren't sure whether it was a serious request that was being made or not. But Councillor Murphy pointed out that when they started looking into it, the location of the restaurant actually helps balance out the weighting of the bridge, because it is on the city side and the main and heavy span is on the other side of the river. So having that heavy restaurant on one side helps to balance the bridge from an engineering point of view. So a win-win situation there. Now, I've been reading in the Courier Mail that the Gold Coast would like to have the swimming for the 2032 Games. And look, this is obviously part of Mayor Tom Tate's advocacy of his city, and this is, I guess, understandable, but I want to congratulate Tom, because he may have been a sceptic to start with. He never signed up to the original deal when all the councils put money in to go after the game. So he was an early sceptic, but he's well and truly on board now, and he's vigorously advocating. He sees the opportunities now, and good luck to him, because in the end, we all have a job of advocating for the city that we represent. And so we'll forgive him for being an early sceptic, and encourage him to keep up advocating for his city, because I know that the Gold Coast wants to be like Brisbane. I know that they want a bit of the shine and the gold dust from Brisbane, from this Olympic opportunity. They want to be part of it, and that's good. But it is important that we're aware of what is being proposed here. Now, the swimming is proposed to be held in a venue called the Brisbane Arena. The Brisbane Arena is a mid-sized indoor stadium where the pool will be constructed temporarily in this stadium. So think of it as a replacement for the Boondall Entertainment Centre. And so this is effectively what we're talking about in an inner-city location. It will serve as a swimming venue for the Olympics and Paralympics, but then it will become an ongoing entertainment centre for the people of Brisbane. And so if the swimming goes to the Gold Coast, what that would mean would be the loss of the Brisbane Arena as a legacy asset for the people of Brisbane and South East Queensland. And I say Brisbane and South East Queensland because we know that just last night and in recent times we've had concerts happening at the Boondall Entertainment Centre. People are coming from all over South East Queensland, and it's been a reminder of exactly why we need a world-class inner-city entertainment centre to replace Boondall. Boondall's had its day, and in fact the discussions on replacing Boondall have been going on now for around 15 years. Back in 2010, people started talking about the need to replace Boondall. It wasn't fit for purpose. It wasn't conducive of, it wasn't representative of what a world-class city deserves, and it wasn't the right venue to attract the economic outcome that we would desire as a legacy from the Games. There's a lot of talk about legacy, and it's always been accepted that Brisbane Arena will be one of those legacy assets. Not built for the Games, but built in time for the Games, funded by the federal government, and we thank them for their agreement to fund this venue. But it is the world-class mid-sized entertainment venue that Brisbane deserves to replace Boondall. And if we didn't have the swimming in Brisbane, we wouldn't have Brisbane Arena being built in Brisbane and no legacy outcome. And that would mean that Boondall would be our long-term solution for entertainment in that mid-sized range. Does anyone think that's a good outcome from a legacy point of view? And in fact, everyone has agreed that Boondall needs to be replaced. The ideal location for Boondall to be replaced in is in an inner city location. The reason for that is great public transport access. The other reason is that it enhances the economic benefit of the venue. So just think about all those people that went to see the Drake concert. They were waiting outside lock gates for hours and hours. Now, did they have local bars and restaurants to go to? Were there things to do before and after? They were sitting in the car park in Boondall, locked out. They had to take a wee in the bushes. Like, this is what we're talking about. This is the current situation here. And so to have an inner city venue means that people can do things before and after the event. It generates jobs, it generates economic activity. People can have a meal or a drink before or after the event, and the transport is good. And so all I'm saying is, when it comes to legacy, there's an important legacy that everyone agrees will be delivered through Brisbane Arena. And if the swimming is held somewhere else other than Brisbane, that legacy is lost to the people of Brisbane and South East Queensland. Does anyone think I will stand for that as Lord Mayor of Brisbane? Absolutely not. I will fight tooth and nail to make sure that the swimming does happen in Brisbane and that we do get a good legacy outcome
Lord Mayor,
from the Brisbane
your
Arena.
time has expired.
Move for an extension.
Seconded. It has been moved for an extension by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Dixon. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against no. The ayes have it. Lord Mayor.
And before I finish up on the issue of Brisbane Arena and the Olympics and venue reviews, I just wanted to reinforce the point that the federal government is behind Brisbane Arena and in fact has agreed to fund the entire project. And so the deal that was done between the state government and the federal government was that the state government would fund the stadium investment that was required, and the federal government would fund the Brisbane Arena investment. And so each has a role to play. And I think it's worth quoting the words of not only the Minister for Sport, but also the local member who represents the Boondall Entertainment Centre, Annika Wells. Annika says here, "It is, as the steward of Boondall, that I say, sadly, we do need a better fit-for-purpose inner-city world-class venue." And she's right. World-class facility. So, yes, she represents the Boondall area, and we have some emotional attachment to that, but we know we need to do better. And so the federal government, the Labor federal government, and Minister Annika Wells knows that Brisbane Arena in an inner-city location here is the right outcome from a legacy benefit. It's the right economic outcome. It will support local business. It will help create jobs. It will provide an ongoing asset that the people of Brisbane and South East Queensland and further afield can enjoy for decades to come. But if we don't have the swimming here, we don't have Brisbane Arena, and we lose a major legacy item. Now, there's been lots of debate about the stadium, and people have different views on that. But until now, there has been no debate on whether we need a new arena. Everyone has agreed, both sides of politics. You don't see disagreement on the need for a legacy venue, Brisbane Arena. It has been widely agreed. And from when the debate started, 15 years ago, everyone knows Boondall needs to be replaced in an inner city location, and it needs to be replaced sooner rather than later. And so let's not miss this opportunity to deliver a lasting legacy so that Drake fans and whoever else is performing, Kylie Minogue, Chris Stapleton, whoever else is performing, can actually have that inner city venue where people can have an experience before and after the show, really boosts the economy, support local business, and not be stuck in a car park with no toilet facilities waiting for a show to start. That's not world class. Brisbane should aspire to a world class legacy venue, and the Brisbane Arena will help deliver that. I also did want to say, Councillor Cassidy tried to raise the issue of reproductive leave, and I just wanted to say we have already increased access to reproductive leave as part of our current EBA negotiations. This is something we've been talking proactively and positively with the unions on, and ultimately we're ready to do a deal. We want to do a deal. We were ready to do a deal a significant time ago, and it's sad that the unions continue to hold up this process and delay workers getting a pay rise in their pockets, delay workers getting access to better reproductive leave, because that is exactly what's happening. You've got unions standing in the way. This is a function of the IR system which has been stacked in favour of unions justifying their own existence. So instead of allowing workers to have a ballot and go to the vote on this, all of the unions have to agree under the state IR framework. And why do they delay things? Because it gives them some kind of relevance. It justifies their own job. They can try and convince someone that they're fighting for something, even though we've got a great offer on the table and workers have been telling us they want to sign up to it now. Yet the unions delay, and as we heard, bus drivers alone, because of union delays, it's costing them over $130,000 a week in lost pay increases that they could have in their pockets right now. And the same goes for reproductive leave. If you want better access to reproductive leave, let's go to the ballot, let's sign up. The unions need to get out of the way, and let's get that pay rise and those extra benefits going out to our workers. Item A is the annual operational plan and quarterly progress report for the period ending December 2024. Now, these are always interesting debates. And I just want to say, and I think it was touched on in question time, we went into the election very transparently. And in fact, 6 months out from the last council election, we were being very upfront with people about the need to reduce our spending and reduce our expenditure. Why? To keep the budget balanced and to relieve the pressure on rates and rents. And so our position going into the election is that we'll target a 10% reduction in spending, and that'll help keep rates down. And we've delivered that, because in the budget after the election, we've kept rates down. We've maintained the lowest rates in South East Queensland that residential ratepayers are paying, and we intend to keep rates down as much as possible. But there was an alternative proposal put forward. While we said we would reduce expenditure by 10%, Labor and the Greens proposed to increase expenditure by at least 20%. $3.5 billion of unfunded and new commitments that they had no plan to pay for. And so there's now a 30% delta, a 30% difference between what we took to the election, what the Labor and the Green coalition of chaos took to the election, and it's going to play out really starkly into the future, because we were upfront about people when we said we need to keep costs down to protect ratepayers, to protect renters, and that's exactly what we are doing. This financial report shows that we've been doing a fantastic job in reducing expenditure. Now, Labor will trumpet on about, oh, there's been reductions in expenditure, isn't it terrible? That's exactly what we promised we would do. So when you hear them use the C word, that's exactly what we promised. We promised to reduce expenditure. This is not some kind of secret plan that we had. We were very upfront about it. Now, Labor went into the election promising that they would spend more, and they criticised our plan to save money. What was the result of the election? They received the lowest citywide vote in 100 years. In 100 years, in the entire history of Brisbane City Council, Labor received the lowest vote they have ever received, promising to spend more and criticising us for saving money for ratepayers. And so whatever they say today, keep that in mind, because one side has a plan, one side's been open about that plan, one side has no plan other than to pull out the credit card and go crazy. And what happens when you do that? We've seen the evidence up the road in George Street. You break the budget, you pass on extra costs to taxpayers and ratepayers, extra borrowing costs because the state government is about to lose their credit rating. That's what happens when Labor or the Greens get in charge of the finances. And so we've made sure that didn't happen. We've reduced our expenditure just as we have promised we would. No, it's all right. You're giving us the look? Okay. But the other thing that's important is when it comes to this report, it's important to bear in mind that close to 90% now of our entire budget is being spent in the suburbs of Brisbane. Not in the CBD, but in the suburbs. And that is something that I gave a commitment on as well. In the election, I said we will spend at least 80% of all council spending in the suburbs, not in the city. And we've exceeded that target year in, year out, and it's now getting close to 90% in this particular year. And so we are absolutely serious about keeping costs down, reducing expenditure, because it's what we promised to do. This report shows that that is exactly what we've been doing. The Labor will try and play the spooky music, but actually, as I said, we were really, really upfront. We could not have been more upfront about this, and it is a good set of numbers. It's a balanced budget, and it's a budget that into the future will help us keep costs down. It's a budget that has a small surplus, a surplus of 10%. Why do we do that? I remember when I talked about a surplus in the past, Councillor Cassidy scoffed and laughed. And he's like, you've got a bizarre obsession with a surplus. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Why? Because it provides a buffer zone. And the lessons of recent years show that you need that buffer zone. And sometimes even when you have a 10% buffer zone, you need more. And costs have gone up by significantly more than 10% in recent years. We've reduced our expenditure, we've done the responsible thing, and that into the future will allow us to keep rates as low as possible. The alternative was $3.5 billion worth of uncosted, irresponsible
Lord Mayor, your
policies.
time has expired.
Move for an no? Okay, we're all good.
Further speakers? Councillor Chong-Wah.
I rise to speak on the annual operational plan progress and quarterly financial report for the period ended December 2024. Communities across our city are missing out on vital maintenance and infrastructure like footpaths, parks, libraries, bike lanes, footbridges, pedestrian crossings, traffic calming devices, and important library programs like the First Five Forever. Parents have been devastated by the LNP's callous cuts. As we see on page 9 of this quarterly financial report, these cuts are happening because our LNP administration is gifting money to developers, cutting infrastructure charges for wealthy developers by 50% to 75% under the guise of creating homes for many residents that are under the housing stress. But where is all this affordable housing? And where are most of the new housing developments? They are in our city's highest risk flood zones. This quarterly financial report states that under Program 1, Transport for Brisbane, page 15 of this report, patronage growth across the ferry network has actually increased by 46.5% for the July to December 2024 period, compared with the same period last year. I'll just repeat that, 46.5%. Despite that growth, 51 daily services have been cut from the Milton Ferry Terminal. 51. This is a 40% reduction in services to Milton. As we can see in this quarterly financial report, again on page 15, there was community consultation on changes to the City Hopper network. Meanwhile, to cut 40% of ferry services to Milton, there was no consultation, no contact with myself as a local councillor, and no attempt to engaging in residents. This clearly suggests a poorly made and rushed political decision. We can see on page 15 of this quarterly report that the administration has initiated the construction of 2 new city cats. I finally received Councillor Murphy's response to my letter requesting a justification for the Milton Ferry Services reduction, 8 weeks after sending it. However, there is no mention of the 2 new city cats in his letter or how they will be used. The 2 new city cats listed on page 15 of this financial report. This LNP administration had 2 years to plan for the City Cats, stopping at the new Howard Smith Wharves. Clearly, no planning was done for this additional terminal to accommodate the extra City Cats usage. As we see on page 15 of this financial report, Council is happy to boast about patronage, yet I was disappointed that Councillor Murphy has neglected to supply any patronage data to my office. Hiding information is a signature tactic for an LNP completely lacking transparency. Bring back the Milton Ferry services.
Further speakers. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I rise to speak on the annual quarterly report as it relates to my portfolio in transport. And can I say, Madam Chair, what a year it's been for transport in this city. We know that keeping Brisbane moving is the #1 priority of our Lord Mayor. It's the #1 priority of this administration, and we've continued to deliver this financial year. But let's recap. In August, we unveiled the Race to Gold, our 2032 Games transport legacy. This is a proposal that continues to demonstrate our commitment to improving public transport and active transport beyond the Games, ensuring that our city is able to move during the Games and that people can use the transport infrastructure and the legacy that we deliver for generations to come. And of course, when we talk about generations to come, we talk about the Bridges for Brisbane program, which is featured in this report, an example of tremendous legacy transport for our city, pedestrian bridges which are improving active travel links in Brisbane. And of course, we know in December we opened the Kangaroo Point Bridge that has blown past all expectations, initial modelling of 6,100 trips per day by 2036, and in fact it's almost doubled that 11 years early. Of course, we also have the lifestyle offerings that are part of that bridge, and the Lord Mayor spoke about it earlier, Mulga Bills and Stilts, which are now open. The addition of these great venues is creating more of a precinct, and we are committed to future bridges within that program. We're very hopeful that this coming federal election that there will be commitments made from both sides of politics to further our Bridges to Brisbane program. We're very hopeful about that because we think that the proof is in the pudding when it comes to these bridges. They are so popular that last week we had the spectacle of all 3 sides of politics in this chamber trying to claim credit for that program, and I think that shows what a fantastic success. Well, I'll take the interjection from the Lord Mayor. Madam Chair, you know, the Labor Party have been saying for many years that these bridges were inner-city vanity projects that were draining the budget dry and were causing us to not be able to deliver things in their wards that they want. But they were very quick to rise and to claim credit for the program and that we had stolen their idea. So, you know, but I think that shows them up for what they are when it comes to policy minds in this chamber. Of course, the biggest thing, Madam Chair, has been Brisbane Metro. And we know that Council's been committed to Brisbane Metro for now 8 years. And this commitment has been enduring because the benefits of Brisbane Metro are enduring for our city. And in this report, of course, we had the 169 trial, which proved to be a tremendous success, Madam Chair. That demonstrated the enthusiasm of the public for Brisbane Metro, and it helped us to prepare for the commencement of services. In February, we launched the M2 line. We've already had over 230,000 passengers ride the M2 service. It's been so successful, and patronage is now significantly up on the old Route 66. We continue to receive positive feedback from commuters, and we're very excited about the future of this bus and what it means for bus rapid transit in Australia, and what it means for Brisbane to be able to build out this great network that we've got of busways, transitways and bus priority zones to get more people moving on public transport in our city, because God knows we need it. And God knows there's been never a better time to get on public transport with 50-cent fares being made permanent by the Christofouli government. And of course, there are some exciting milestones for Brisbane Metro yet to come. Stage 3 in the launch of M1 and Brisbane's new bus network, and then of course in Q3 this year the opening of the Adelaide Street Tunnel. It is all very, 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 very exciting. Now, Madam Chair, Councillor Chong-Wah raised some issues around city cats and how the city cats which are under construction will be used. And I know that Councillor Chong-Wah is new to this place, but let me just explain the City Cat Build program for all councillors. What happens is we build new city cats and we retire the old city cats, which are now 20 years old and at the end of their life. And so what that means is that there's actually not a net change in the amount of city cats that we have in our city. So if you don't have more city cats, but you're renewing the same amount of city cats that you have, then you can only service the existing network that you have today. And so when you add in a new terminal, which is what happened at Howard Smith Wharves, you have to take some out. And that's what we did there.
Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Chair. I rise to stand on the annual report. The quarterly, sorry. I'm just having a little bit of a moment. You know, what we heard before from the Lord Mayor was an amazing way to preface the fact that this annual quarterly report is full of cuts. But it's not just the cuts. Like, what we see here intrinsically is budget mismanagement. It's the outcome of the lasting effects of the 10% in budget cuts and the developer welfare handouts that were pushed in the same year in late 2023. So let's break it down a little bit. In Program 1, we're seeing both expenditure and capital expenditure fall below budget. Yes, absolutely. We've got the Kangaroo Point Green Bridge, through you, Chair, that Councillor Murphy talked about earlier. Fantastic. But where's the follow through? The bus stops that were promised to be made accessible, nowhere to be seen. There's no clear information about future bikeway concept designs, at what point there are. And where, of course, is the Kangaroo Point to Shafton Avenue shared bikeway. From memory, it was publicly, very publicly announced that it could be built before the end of the year. But here we are with no information or no even public designs available. But what have we seen? We've seen the 86 bus cut. We've seen various services slashed. And frankly, it's not looking good for many of the projects that were lauded in here in this chamber just last June. Most of them are now likely to be pushed down the road. So it's not just about the cuts or the challenges. What we are seeing is projects being pushed further down the road, which I believe is something I spoke about in the Chamber's November 2023. In Program 2, the focus on infrastructure from Brisbane, the numbers are looking any better. Revenue expenditure and capital expenditure are all below budget. The funding that was supposed to maintain and improve our transport network is being shifted around. In layman terms, we're seeing that funding moved in here to capital expenditure. But even in here, we see that capital expenditure is quite low. Intrinsically, it also states in the papers that we are moving some of that budget to capital expenditure and drainage. But of course, only 2 drainage projects out of 7 from the budget that were promised have been completed, and it's even worse when we look at stormwater projects. There's only 3 of 15 projects listed in this update that have been completed or progressed. Program 3, which focuses on a sustainable city, continues seemingly to maybe suffer the most. Again, lack of transparency, but we've gone on and on about that. There's no mention of community street planting projects, no upgrades of dog off-leash area refurbishments, no upgrades of metropolitan districts and neighbourhood parks. And I'm not saying that these things aren't happening. I'm not saying they're not being done. I'm sure some of it is. But it's clear from the documents that we, as a Brisbane City Council, have not done nearly enough. And of course, we come then to the truly alarming figure within Program 5, Lifestyle and Communities. Very specifically, the $9.2 million which has been spent on capital expenditure. This is a mere fraction, less than 25% of reallocated capital expenses for this program, and demonstrates where we are lagging in our deliveries. You know, we are in February. The end of year is what? 4 months away? Less. And we can see right here less than a quarter of what we were supposed to spend in capital expenses has been spent in facilities, community facilities. It's clear that this budget is in crisis. What does that mean? It's hard to understand because we don't get the transparency, but it is full of delayed projects, delayed funding, and also missed opportunities. And now, obviously, with staff reductions that are not only looming but in place, there's no chance for making up for the work that's been delayed or outright ignored. The cuts are too deep and the consequences are already being felt around our city. We need a council that prioritises people of Brisbane over developer handouts and short-term political gains. We need a council that invests in the services, infrastructure and communities,
Councillor
and that
Massey, your
doesn't just
time
talk
has
about all the
expired.
cuts
Are
they're
there any
doing to
further
excuse them.
questions? Councillor Howard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise to speak to item A, the Annual Operation Plan Quarterly Progress Report. Chair, I'm proud to speak to item A, our mid-year budget report. It's a direct reflection of this Schrinner Council's commitment to making Brisbane even better. In the first 6 months of this financial year, we have already delivered so much. Whether it be the Schrinner Council's brand new Lord Mayor's Safer Suburbs Grants program that has delivered more than $500,000 in funding to 69 community organisations right across Brisbane to help protect our clubs from Labor's legacy of rampant crime, or delivering more than 4,460 free or low-cost health and fitness sessions through our Active and Healthy program, with almost 50,000 residents have benefited from. This year again, we hosted 15 Lord Mayor's Seniors Christmas parties. We delivered another amazing Lord Mayor's Christmas carols and continued to deliver Australia's largest library service delivered by any local government, with more than 2.7 million visits to our libraries and more than 4.7 million loans and downloads. Again, Chair, this is just for the first 6 months of this financial year. The Labor Greens coalition of chaos can stand up and make claims left, right and centre, but residents know the truth. The Labor Greens coalition of chaos wants to force residents to pay more. They made billions of big spending promises during the election, which would drive up council spending by a staggering 20%. The Schrinner Council is putting downward pressure on rates and rents by keeping the budget balanced while prioritising projects like the Lord Mayor's Safer Suburbs and the Lord Mayor's Better Suburbs grant program, delivering more than $3 million in funding to community organisations across Brisbane. Our Active and Healthy Parks program, delivering thousands of free and low-cost events and activities, making iconic festivals and events like Brisbane Festival and Brisbane Writers Festival possible through our Signature City Festivals program. Creating more to see and do through our Festival and Events program, delivering all-important support to the many community events that celebrate our multicultural and vibrant city. Our outdoor cinema in the suburbs, our bands in the parks, BrisAsia Festival. Councillor Kim was just talking about how incredible BrisAsia was, a festival that was created by this Schrinner Council. And Madam Chair, we are delivering new and better facilities like the Kenmore Community Centre and lighting upgrades for community clubs. We're supporting a thriving creative economy through programs like the Cube Effect, supporting our emerging artists, giving them a head start so that they can go on to achieve amazing professional music career, like our former alumni, Psycho, who was our very own Brisbane-born and bred singer and songwriter, who is now taking the world by storm. Last financial year, we established new funding for Australasian Dance Collective through our Cultural Organisations program. And this financial year, we established new funding for Voxalis, who I joined just last week to launch their new season. And the wonderful thing about funding organisations like Voxalis is that they are collaborating with other emerging artists. And this is truly the reason why the Shrinner Council is able to support our wonderful emerging arts and cultural activities. I know that they are so appreciative to be part of our cultural organisation program, and this multi-year funding means the world to organisations like Voxalis and Australasian Dance Collective. And of course, we are continuing to deliver the largest library service of any local government in Australia. We deliver 3 times more funding for libraries than our closest comparative library network, which is run by the City of Gold Coast. Because in Brisbane, residents pay less and get more. Residents continue to enjoy free access to more than 1.6 million collection items available across 33 libraries, the mobile and pop-up libraries. This is in addition to the thousands of free activities, events and workshops we continue to deliver each year, including everything from toddler story time to English conversation groups and digital literacy training. We continue to deliver one of the most accessible library services in the nation, with programs like our audiobook postal service for vision impaired residents, our home library service for those who are unable to visit our libraries,
your time
and there's so much more, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Further speakers? Further speakers? Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I rise to speak on item A. The number one promise, Madam Chair, that we gave to the people of Brisbane was to be financially responsible, to keep costs down and to take the pressure off rates and rents. This report before us today shows that we're doing exactly just that. It outlines our progress against the budget that the Lord Mayor handed down last June. It was a sensible budget, all about living within our means and keeping costs down so that we don't pass on costs to our residents. But there are only 2 ways that you can do that, Madam Chair. An approach that respects ratepayers' money and manages expenses carefully in an environment where the cost of nearly everything has risen dramatically over the past few years. Or, in contrast, you take the approach of the Green Labor Coalition of Chaos, which was to make $3.5 billion worth of unfunded election commitments, a budget black hole that could have only been filled by massive rate rises, the likes of which we haven't seen since the last time that lot were in office. 4 rate rises of above 6% in the years when inflation was very low or non-existent under Labor Council. That is their record, Madam Chair. Since the budget was handed down in June, external economic and financial pressures continue to be felt, and costs are continuing to go up. Material rises and key costs since the budget continue to impact our bottom line, including a 4.4% increase in cement costs, 11.2% increase in electrical equipment, and an average of 4.3% increases in all other materials. While the first cash rate reduction seen by the Reserve Bank last week is welcome relief for many, cash rate reductions are not happening as soon or as quickly as forecast mid-last year. While the global economy has shown resilience, geopolitical tensions continue to pose risks, particularly in energy and commodity markets. Domestically, economic growth has slowed. Australia's GDP grew just 0.3% in the September 24 quarter, bringing annual growth to 0.8% for the year. So, Madam Chair, for Council, it means we must remain vigilant with our own spending. Households across Brisbane are tightening their budgets, and we're making the responsible decision to do exactly the same thing in Council. Our budget is balanced and it has weathered the impacts of a pandemic and a flood. We're keeping it balanced to weather the impacts of a global inflation crisis while ensuring that Brisbane's owner-occupiers pay the cheapest residential rates in South East Queensland. We continue to provide the most generous pensioner rebate scheme in Queensland, If you look at the neighbouring councils, they might offer $100, $200, maybe $250. We offer full pensioners a 40% rebate, up to the value of $1,248, or 20% for part pensioners, up to the value of $624. These rebates are benefiting around 40,000 Brisbane pensioners each and every year. And of course, it's in addition to our free off-peak travel for seniors on Brisbane buses and ferries, green bins for less than $1 a week, down from the previous cost of over $90 every year. And Madam Chair, as Councillor Howard mentioned, our ever-popular $2 summer dips were back this summer, so residents can stay cool for less. Today's report does show revenue to be on track with budget projections, and that Council is progressing well against our almost $1 billion capital program this financial year, with $480 million spent across the city. Investments in keeping Brisbane moving, like progressing our transformational projects, including the Kangaroo Point Bridge, Moggle Road Corridor upgrade, and the Turn Up and Go Brisbane Metro. But again, Madam Chair, the budget the Lord Mayor handed down this year was first and foremost focused on our suburbs. The Lord Mayor's Suburbs First guarantee ensures that more than 80% of our investment occurs in Brisbane suburbs. And as the Lord Mayor said, we're approaching the 90% mark, with a figure of 89%. Through careful management of Council's expenditure, we're on track, but continued caution is required in the face of economic and market volatility. Keeping costs down to ease pressure on household rates and rents was a key priority for the Lord Mayor and for me during the last year's council election. In stark contrast...
Deputy Mayor, your time has expired. Further speakers? Further speakers? Lord Mayor. We'll now put that to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against no. No. The ayes have it.
Division.
Seconded. Division has been called by Councillor Cassidy and seconded by Councillor Massey. Ayes to my right, noes to my left. Clerks, please ring the bells. Clerks, please read the results.
Madam Chair, the ayes have it, the voting being 19 in favour and 7 against.
That is carried. Councillors, please resume your seats. Councillor Murphy, Transport Committee.
Madam Chair, I move that the report of the Transport Committee meeting held on Tuesday the 18th of February be adopted.
Seconded.
It's been moved by Councillor Murphy and seconded by Councillor Parry that the report of the Transport Committee meeting dated Tuesday the 18th of February 2025 be adopted. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before we get on to the committee report, I just wanted to briefly discuss Council's dispute, in particular with the RTBU. I'm very pleased that the union has delayed potential strike action until Friday. The union, of course, has made the decision to delay strike action because they're saying progress has been made in the negotiations, and that's a good thing. But it's unfortunate that we don't already have an agreement, and the point has been well made by the Deputy Mayor and the Lord Mayor that we have been in negotiations on this agreement since midway through last year. And this very much to us looks like the union justifying their own existence and delaying until the expiry of the agreement to then make back pay an issue. This is very much what this looks like, and I don't know, maybe Councillor Cassidy will make a contribution in the Transport Committee report, but I wonder if they teach this at Union Camp, if this is 101 on how to negotiate a certified agreement, to delay until after the agreement has expired, to make back pay an issue, to get media attention, and to say that you are the champion of workers when in fact you are seeking to deny them the pay rise that they very truly have well earned. So I hope that that's not the case. I hope that we can get an agreement here quickly, and I hope that the residents of Brisbane and the visitors to our city are not subjected to mass bus strikes in order to make sure that a few people at the top of the union, who don't drive buses, by the way, are able to justify their continued exorbitant pay packets. Now, with that said, Madam Chair, I think we can get to the committee report. What I want to say here is that when we deal with issues of strikes and of network unavailability, whether that's because of industrial action or whether it's because of traffic on the network or a burst water main, as it would be, we have something called the Network Control Centre, and they did a superb job of mitigating the disruption from last week's industrial action. They coordinated solutions to keep buses on the road and to stop service cancellations. And ironically, it was just last week when the Transport Committee received a presentation about the Network Control Centre. It operates 21.5 hours of the day and 24 hours a day from Friday to Sunday. The NCC plays a critical role in Brisbane's transport network. The centre runs Brisbane's bus network, it manages incidents and it supports our assets in the field. Our console support officers provide coverage for quite literally thousands of bus drivers who are on the road at any one time. And indeed the NCC received over 140,000 calls in 2024. Likewise, when a bus has an incident, operators at the NCC will send out a transport operations vehicle to resolve that scenario. 32 console support operators work night and day to coordinate with our bus drivers to keep them on the road. Little wonder that this group of seasoned campaigners helped to stabilise our network last week and to call additional resources in to support where we had service cancellations. And because of them, we know we were able to mitigate that impact to around about 80 services that were cancelled when it could have been up to 400 or 500. So the NCC did a tremendous job. Madam Chair, we know that it doesn't have to be this way. We hope that we don't have to rely on the NCC later this week to avoid a calamitous situation. We very much believe in a negotiated settlement to these disputes and not conflict. So we are very pleased to see that the RTBU are back at the negotiating table this week, but the next step is to finalise a deal. Council has a very fair, decent and reasonable pay rise on the table. The public know that this offer is generous, and our other unions and our staff do as well. So, Madam Chair, the bus is about to leave. Let's hope that the RTBU get on it. Thank you.
Further speakers? No further speakers. We'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Councillor Wines, Infrastructure Committee.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I move that the report of the Infrastructure Committee meeting held on Tuesday, the 18th of February 2025 be adopted.
And I gladly second the report, Madam Chairman.
It has been moved by Councillor Wines and seconded by Councillor Toomey that the report of the Infrastructure Committee meeting dated Tuesday the 18th of February 2025 be adopted. Councillor Wines.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just before I get into the report, there was a couple of questions I noticed that I was unable to provide an answer for, which I will provide an answer for now. The question was, the closure of Herschel Street, was it part of the Roma Street PDA? Did Council get consulted and agree to this closure? The closure of Herschel Street was part of the Roma Street PDA. Council was consulted by the Cross River Rail Delivery Authority, and the option was supported by Transport Planning Operations, Brisbane Infrastructure, Transport for Brisbane and TransLink. The RFPC 14 was submitted to the Coordinator-General by the CRRA on the 9th of April 2024 and subsequently displayed for public comment between the 29th of April and the 13th of May 2024. The other question asked was the status of the bike detour and traffic, what is the status of the bike detour and traffic management plans around the Dexter site on Eagle Street? The answer is the existing traffic management plan includes Riverwalk closed until January 2026, bicycles detoured, the development frontage footpath on Eagle Street closed, and one lane of Eagle Street frontage occupied by work zone. Dexter's has requested an amendment to the above provisions, however they are currently being assessed and not yet finalised. Last week, the context for those answers is that last week the committee heard our ordinary report, or the ordinarily occurring report I should say. It was an extraordinary report provided by our officers, of course, about major projects and in particular inner city projects. Sometimes I feel like councillors don't understand why it comes through the Infrastructure Committee, but we have a dedicated team of people who assess and provide support for major projects to ensure that the traffic operations around those projects has as limited effect on the network as possible. So they work with the predicted private motor vehicle movements, they work with our public transport operators of all varieties, and they also consider the needs of active transport users for how they will affect how projects of all varieties, whether it be Cross River Rail, whether it be the Dexter Street development of the old Eagle Street Pier, all of those projects, our officers then work with them to consider how best the effects of those can be mitigated, how we can work with them to get the best outcomes, and what can be done to ensure that that work continues with as little effect on our network. So that's actually done by a team within Transport Planning and Operations. That is why it comes through the committee. That's why we're presented with their work for consideration and review each session. So, as I said, it's always been quality work. I look forward to further contributions from councillors on this particular topic.
Further speakers. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Chair. I rise briefly to speak onto this presentation for the infrastructure inner city projects construction update. And I rise to speak to put a couple of things on the record. We've heard in this chamber many times the challenges that I've talked about with the Metro, particularly in the relation to rapid transport and the routes and the branches having inefficient frequency and reliability. But today I want to talk about something else, and I want to talk about the lack of infrastructure build that has happened as a part of Metro 2 at Dutton Park Place. The residents of Dutton Park and Fairfield are facing this specific issue because it relates directly to the lack of construction of a bus stop that enables the Metro to stop, which is a failure of the budget from this LNP administration in relation to the Metro. Interestingly enough, it's important to note that this is the only stop on the previously known 66 route that has not been included in the Metro 2, noting that for most days, the bus stops running at this stop at 9 p.m. at the latest. What this actually means is residents of Dutton Park and Fairfield are actually completely ignored. When we talk about the Metro and the stuff that has been public said, it's about rapid transport for the city. But for this part of the city, which is in the inner city, it's completely missing. And I think that's a huge oversight by the LNP Council, because even though there are buses that run to Dutton Park Station, they are infrequent, particularly on the weekends and at night. And we also know that this area is a part of high density that's happening. You know, with the developments on Metro 3, we know that Metro is a heavily delayed project, so we'll see what happens. I know that there are concerns citywide about Metro Stage 3, and we know that all stages of the Metro absolutely miss out the western suburbs. Of course, something we have to reiterate as well, the Victoria Bridge has opened. It's really important to know that it's opened now in 2025 without any shade. And in Queensland, in 2025, where melanoma is the second most common cancer diagnosed in both men and women, how is it that we are in a situation where allowing such basic health and safety not be built? We know that Victoria Bridge is an amazingly used bridge. It's a connector for both sides of the city, and the fact that we're not even mentioning it, remembering in 2023 that the shade was delayed. But since then, nothing but crickets from the LNP Council. Another concern, of course, is Queen's Wharf. It's a critical active transport connection to the western suburbs via the Bicentennial. And what we're seeing, what I'm hearing, what is being discussed with me, which was also flagged well before the finishing of Queen's Wharf, was it's gonna be exactly like Howard Smith Wharfs. What I mean by that is this vital link for pedestrians, cyclists and scooters has been created into a conflict zone by creating a shared zone. We know that this is a problem. The Bicentennial is one of the most important pieces of active transport infrastructure in the city. And it is something that we do have to consider in the future. Look, while the updates on these projects are great, I don't sit on this committee, but I do appreciate the presentation of the updates. I think it's really important that I'm able to place some of these concerns that not only my residents, but other residents citywide have spoken. I think particularly when we speak about Victoria Bridge, you know, the city has so many people come to it. It's so important that we're able to protect these people, especially with the rapid heat that's happening. We want people to be active. We want people to be using public transport. And this update right now, which is focused on inner city projects, and I am an inner city councillor, while there's great steps forwards, there's also challenges from construction and build. Thank you.
Further speakers? Councillor Wines.
Thanks, Madam Chairman. Look, I've got to say it's been a heavy workload for Councillor Cassidy over these last months, and I can see that he's brought in the reserves, the B graders are in, and the Greens have got control of the agenda today. And so, well done to them that the second 11 are in, and they're covering for the Labor Party through all of their work. So I appreciate it's been hard. It's hard to be that negative. It's hard to be that critical, and I appreciate that he has to have a week off. So, but I must respond to Councillor Massey's comments. So there was some consideration given by her, some discussion on the operation of the Metro. Now, what Councillor Massey left out was that the Metro provides the single largest uplift in public transport for the Gabba Ward that's ever going to occur ever in the history of that suburb. Yep. There's something like a 20 to 30% uplift in usage of public transport on those lines since the Metro was launched. Now, that speaks to the number one argument about use of public transport. Convenience, reliability and predictability are the number one drivers of public transport use. The Metro does all three, and the Inner South stands to be the principal beneficiary of those. Now, Councillor Massey talked about one particular station. She talked about some shade. She did not talk about the fact that thousands, if not tens of thousands of her local residents have a better and more reliable public transport system. So much of what Metro was designed to address were the shortcomings on Victoria Bridge, and that there was significant potential time lost each and every day for buses travelling over that bridge. In some instances, up to 20 minutes variation between the timetabled bus route and when you actually arrived in the city. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. There's now a high-frequency public transport service that specifically addresses that major issue. Now, oftentimes people, when they choose to criticise the Metro, choose effectively the rats and mice that just sort of pick at little things, but they don't reflect the fact that tens of thousands of people are on this thing more than there were on the public transport system week on week. So the fact that Councillor Massey has some concerns about one particular station, I think is a deliberate ignoring of the fact that every other station in that network has seen significant uplift in both convenience and reliability, and that her residents, and I encourage her to get on board, because her residents have, and it's about time her and her colleagues, who spend an awful lot of time talking about how they're the champions of public transport, never miss an opportunity to criticise all of the wonderful work that's been done, oftentimes in their communities.
We'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Councillor Dixon.
Yeah. Chair, I move that Council now adjourn for afternoon tea for 15 minutes, which commences only when all councillors have vacated the chamber and the doors have been locked.
Seconded. It has been moved by Councillor Dixon and seconded by Councillor Givney that the meeting adjourn for a period of 15 minutes, which commences only when all councillors have vacated the chamber and the doors have been locked. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, no. The ayes have it. The meeting will adjourn when all councillors have left the chamber.
Councillor Allen, City Planning and Suburban Renewal Committee, please.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Chair. I move that the report of the City Planning and Suburban Renewal Committee meeting held on Tuesday the 18th of February 2025 be adopted.
Seconded.
It was moved by Councillor Allen, seconded by Councillor Wolf, that the report of the City Planning and Suburban Renewal Committee meeting dated Tuesday 18th February 2025 be adopted. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Chair. Item A was a committee presentation for an approved development at 15 Goulburn Road at Willawong. This industrial development is owned by Main Freight Logistics, and the site has an area of 80,000 odd square metres. The application for the site was code accessible and included material change of use for warehouse, transport depot and high impact industry. The development application for the subject site was approved on the 22nd of November 2024, with the site works having already commenced on the site, and the proponents are looking to start building construction in April of this year. The site is in close proximity to the Ipswich, Pacific and Gateway motorways, Bow Desert Road, as well as Archerfield Airport and Oxley Creek. The site is able to be serviced by A and B double vehicles, noting the site is conveniently located near primary freight routes. A registered B double route connects the site to the south from Sherbrooke and Leroyd Roads. This is Main Freight's 14th location in Queensland and 74th across the country. It will function as a freight distribution depot to service the south and southwest of Brisbane. The building itself has a gross floor area of over 15,000 square metres with a warehouse component, and it will also operate with 50 administrative staff and 70 warehouse staff. Once completed, the site will support up to 335 truck movements per day. The development comprises of a warehouse, a two-storey administration building, pick-up and delivery areas for local freight, a maintenance shed and a truck wash area. The administration building has multiple functions and includes drivers' quarters, a kitchen, canteen and seating area for meal stops, as well as meeting rooms and direct access to the viewing platform. And I think it's important just to note that there are those facilities for drivers. Obviously, they'll be coming and going from that facility, potentially after long drives, so it's good to have those facilities available for them. The site provides separate access for light and heavy vehicles, with staff parking separated from the main truck manoeuvring area. Truck access is via Goulburn Road, so quite a significant concentration on the safety and vehicle movements in the area. There is sufficient parking in accordance with City Plan by providing 218 on-site parking bays, including 55 truck and trailer parking bays, 11 prime mover bays and 30 pick-up and delivery bays. The site has more than 3,500 square metres of landscaping that will be established across the site along Goulburn and Sherbrooke Roads, as well as 2 rainwater tanks and new street tree planting. An acceptable outcome for landscaping in a site like this is 3%. However, the application has achieved 5%. So a good outcome, and I might say that, while your traditional large-scale industrial building can look a little bit confronting, the landscaping that they're proposing is certainly going to soften the street visibility of this particular site. Mr Deputy Chair, this development will support economic development in Brisbane and contribute to keeping businesses in line with Council's industrial strategy. So we're very focused on ensuring that the city can develop in a way to support not only the employment needs of our growing city, but also support industrial businesses. There's also the development supports the intent and growth of the precinct and provides a cleaner industrial business in the Willawong area. It will also support local, national and international supply chains. It will create construction and ongoing operational jobs, and it will also enable time-critical freight distribution. And certainly over the years, the freight industry has become more complex, more time-critical, and facilities such as this obviously support that objective. And I'll leave further debate to the chamber.
Any further speaker? Councillor Allen? Now I put the City Planning and Suburban Renewal Committee report to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Councillor Davis, Environment, Parks and Sustainability Committee.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. I move that the report of the Environment, Parks and Sustainability Committee meeting of Tuesday, the 18th of February 2025 be adopted.
Seconded.
It was moved by Councillor Davis, seconded by Councillor Marx, that the report of the Environment, Parks and Sustainability Committee meeting dated Tuesday, 18th February 2025 be adopted. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. And before I get to the committee report, I just would like to update the chamber on a number of things, a number of events that are happening that are being funded and supported by Program 3. We now have some dates locked in for community tree planting events. We've got Wilson Park at Norman Park coming up on the 22nd of March. We also have one at Marchant Park in Aspley. I know Councillor Parry is very excited about that, and her community is really on board about coming along and participating. We have another at the Cooperoo Creek Reserve, which is on Holdsworth Street at Cooperoo, and that's on the 17th of May. We have Silvertop Street Park in Capera, which will be an excellent day, and that's on the 31st of May. And we also have a date for Kentish Street Park in Mount Gravatt East, and that's the 14th of June. And these community tree planting days, Deputy Chair, are a great way for the community to come together. We as a council understand that providing these opportunities for people to meet, understand their neighbourhood, whilst also increasing the environmental outcomes of their suburbs is really important. And if people come along, the event, of course, is free. So along with the tree planting, there'll be free native plants and, of course, a sausage sizzle. Well, everyone likes to have a sausage sizzle after they've done some heavy tree planting, so we look forward to having them along. The really great part about these events, Deputy Chair, is when we see the kids come along. So when their families come and you see these young ones getting involved, putting their gloves on and getting their gloves dirty, making sure that they can plant a tree. They really take ownership of it, and it's great to see. Deputy Chair, we've also got some upcoming events in Victoria Park. As you know, Victoria Park is activated through the years, and we have a number of events that go on, but some of the larger ones that are very important, we've got the Easter weekend, which is Friday the 18th of April to Monday the 21st. These are very successful events, and they grow each year. We get lots of families coming along to look for eggs, and I don't mean lots of eggs that they pick up, but they go around and they look for specific locations and they fill in a little
fill in a little form, and then they go to the final stage and they are given a chocolate. And there's always something for all children, so if they can't have chocolate, we always have something else that we can gift them with. But it's fantastic, and the Easter Bunny comes along and the kids just love it. We've also got Mother's Day, which is held in the other section of Victoria Park over the Spring Hillside, and that comes along with Park Vibes music. And I've had the opportunity to attend one of those events with Councillor Howard. We had a wonderful day. The mums really, really enjoy it, being spoilt, sitting there listening to the music that's available, and I would encourage anybody to come along to that, and that is on Sunday the 11th of May. Deputy Chair, to the committee report. Last week's presentation was an overview of the rich history of Newstead Park. Newstead Park was purchased by Council in 1918 from Carolyn Amelia Heaslop, who was the wife of a wholesale grocery merchant, and it became a formal park open to the public in 1921. The park was designed by Harry Moore, which was Brisbane Superintendent of Parks at the time, and his layout, his design and the plantings have been retained and can still be seen today. And since then, of course, as you know, it's become one of Brisbane's most popular inner city parks. It's also the home to Newstead House, which was built in 1846. It's had a recent restoration, and I expect that Councillor Marks, who sits on the board of Newstead House, might have a few words to say about that, so I'll keep my comments short on that. It's also got some historic trees on site, notably the Cunningham fig, but also an avenue of palms, which have been there for a very long time. And when the Breakfast Creek Bridge was completed, those gaps from the trees that had perished over time were replaced, so that was a fantastic outcome. It was a great presentation. It was very entertaining. We learnt a lot, and I leave further debate to the chamber. Thank you, Deputy Chair.
Any further speaker? Councillor Marks.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Chair. I'm very happy to rise and speak on the presentation that we had last week in committee about Newstead Park. As the Chair has mentioned, I am on the board. Thankfully, I really appreciate the Chair nominating me for the position of being on the board of Newstead House, which, as you know, is located in Newstead Park. Interestingly enough, the first original owner, Mr Leslie, purchased 17 acres at this site for this princely sum of £25. I'm going to suggest we probably paid a little bit more for that when we purchased it in 1918. And then in 1932, the Royal Historical Society of Queensland was given the use of the 3 rooms in the house. The Newstead House Trust Act was passed in 1939, and it's now administered by a trust, and since 40 years since the collection of these 2 bodies have been housed there. The collection, speaking of that, has been 6,000 items there that have come from various locations, which are part of the house. They're part been in storage, part of just owned by Friends of Newstead, the Historical Society, and bits and pieces that belong to the house as well. And as the Chair mentioned, the house has recently undergone a major renovation, and that was actually the project occurred because the Queensland Government invested $5.5 million in this property, and it's now the Queensland Department of the Environment, Tourism, Science and Innovation, Minister Powell, who is in charge of this particular piece of heritage that Brisbane City Council owns. And City Parklands, under the wonderful auspice of Sean Madigan, is run very well and is doing a fabulous job. His team look after the gardens and the park area. It's been mentioned the significance and importance of the trees on site, and the board has been dealing with, as I said, the collection of some 6,000 items. We're very lucky to have a lady by the name of Catherine Chambers, who actually worked for the previous state government, decided to take some leave from her role and then volunteered to be in charge of manning this collection, which basically
means we have to, it all has to be catalogued, has to be checked, has to be looked at, has to be decided whether it's something the House wants to keep, whether it has any significance to the park and its area substation, whether it goes back to the Historical Society, whether it goes to the Friends, the owners. So it's an enormous task, and it's been going on for some time. And I know that the Chair was heavily involved in the renovation side of things, as I and want to tell people the Chair did all the work with the renovations, and I've come along on the board after all the work has been done. So I'm very, very grateful. If you have not been to Newstead House and Newstead Park, you need to do yourself a favour, as I used to say back in the day, and get along there. It is open to the public. We are presently investigating Devonshire teas. As you can imagine, that sort of place, the park and the house, inspires people to go along of the older generation, and then of course they want to have a Devonshire tea, scone and tea or coffee. That's something that the board is certainly investigating in conjunction with City Parklands. They are also investigating having a Mother's Day event there, so potentially if you don't want to go to Victoria Park, you could come along to Newstead House and participate in a Mother's Day event. More information on that will come out in due course. I just want to say that the board is doing a fabulous job of looking after the house, and appreciate the government for all the money they put into it, and appreciate City Parklands for now taking on the management of it and looking after it. Claire Moore is the chair of the board and does a spectacular job in that location. We also have Dean on it, and we also have Denver Beanland, who's come along to a couple of board meetings, and those who know Denver know how passionate he is about history of the place. I was surprised, I didn't know that Newstead Park actually had a bit down there that is a naval connection in that. So, and then bizarrely enough, a few days after having the presentation at the committee, which talked about the naval military connection, I actually got an invitation to an event to celebrate something that, and it's been held there at Newstead Park in that particular location. So I'm looking forward to going there to Newstead Park from a different angle, from the historical military angle, and see what else they have to tell me about it, because it's certainly a great place. Every time I've been there, there's always been lots and lots of people there. So, like I said, do yourself a favour and get along to Newstead House and visit the park. Thank you.
Any further speaker? Councillor Davis. Now I put the Environment, Parks and Sustainability Committee report to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Councillor Harton, City Standards Committee.
Chair, I move the report of the City Standards Committee held on Tuesday, the 18th of February 2025 be adopted.
Seconded.
It was moved by Councillor Harton, seconded by Councillor Edelman, that the report of the City Standards Committee meeting dated Tuesday, 18th February 2025 be adopted. Councillor Harton.
Thank you, Chair. Before I jump into the committee presentation, I just would like to start by addressing the question that Councillor Johnson asked of the Lord Mayor today. I just wanted to start by saying that I was assuming Councillor Johnson was actually talking about Ensign Street, not Ensign Avenue at Annerley. We've investigated the claims, and as expected, they are completely incorrect. The area actually abuts the rail corridor and is heavily vegetated with large trees. There is no footpath, and quite honestly, nobody would be walking on that side of the road because of the tree density, and there is a perfectly good footpath on the opposite side. In November, a job was raised as a cleansing job, not as a footpath obstruction. Those on the other side of the chamber are laughing, Mr. Chair. I'll just repeat that again. In November, a job was raised as a cleansing job, not as a footpath obstruction. Our teams have been out, inspected the gullies. It was clear the street sweeper has also attended. In terms of the grass verge being blocked by downed trees, there are still some sticks and palm fronds on the verge that require cleaning up, and due to the location of the trees, there isn't a footpath that people would typically walk on, so it's considered a low priority, hence our Category 5. Mr. Chair, I will now focus on our presentation, which last week was focused on Council's recycling efforts in Brisbane. Now, as we all know, recycling is an essential service of ours that we also have a shared responsibility with our state colleagues. And the Schrinner Council is committed to taking significant steps to reduce waste and improve recycling in our city.
Ensuring that recyclable materials are properly sorted and processed is critical to maintaining a sustainable city. It also means that we continue to reduce landfill. The majority of our recyclables, paper, cardboard and glass, make up 80% of our recycling bin, with other plastics and metals accounting for the remaining 20%. Visy's Gibson Island recycling facility plays a crucial role in sorting and processing these materials. I also like to give a shout out to those councillors who joined us for a tour of the Visy facility recently to see firsthand the work that they are doing. With advanced plastics recovery, mechanical separation and improved glass and paper sorting, we recover more resources than ever. Once sorted, materials are sent to facilities across the country. Our paper and cardboard go to the Visy paper mill at Gibson Island, which we also went to go and see. Glass is processed at the Visy Glass in South Brisbane. Aluminium and steel are recycled and reused locally at Visy's beverage can factory in Yatala. Despite these advancements, there is still a major concern about the recycling stream in the form of batteries. This was also something that Visy raised with us while we were on the tour. They are the leading cause of fires at our waste and recycling facilities and cause a significant danger to our garbage truck drivers. With around 10,000 battery-related incidents occurring across Australia each year, improper disposal poses serious risk to our workers and to our infrastructure. Over the past 5 years, right here in Brisbane, we have seen over 180 fires in Brisbane caused by batteries, causing significant hazards and disruption to our services. And that's why I recently joined with Mr Powell to announce our partnership with the Christopher government that focus on battery recycling. This program will provide $2 million worth of grants to help set up even more convenient battery drop-off locations for our residents. With this initiative, we're stepping up safety measures and making sure hazardous waste is properly managed, keeping Brisbane safer and cleaner. The Schrinner Council is taking direct action to ensure we deliver a cleaner Brisbane for residents today and the generations of tomorrow. I commend this report to the Chamber.
Any further speaker? Now I put the City Standards Committee report to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Councillor Edward, Community and Arts Committee. Sorry, Councillor Edward, your microphone is not on.
Apologies. Deputy Chair, I move that the report of the Community and the Arts Committee meeting held on Tuesday the 18th of February 2025 be adopted.
Seconded.
It was moved by Councillor Edward, seconded by Councillor Edmund, that the report of the Community and the Arts Committee meeting dated Tuesday 18th February 2025 be adopted. Councillor Edward.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. I just want to start off by saying how lovely it is to hear all the committee reports today. It's been incredible to hear about the great work being done in our city. But going back to this incredible committee presentation we had last week from the General Manager of Customer Services, Lifestyle and Community Services, aka Magic Mike, sorry Michael, had to do it, and also the Manager of Connected Communities, Lifestyle and Community Services, the lovely Simon, to provide an update on the success of Council's summer program. We started off by hearing about the Lord Mayor's Christmas carols and the huge success it was on the 7th of December at River Stage. More than 4,350 people attended the event in person. 2,000 people watched from the free live site at Victoria Park, Brisbane, and a further audience of 1 million people watched it on television, supported by Channel 9. Tickets to the event sold out within 50 minutes this year, another great outcome for our city. And we were also able to support the Lord Mayor's Community Trust as well, which I know supports so many amazing charities right across our city. The Lord Mayor's Seniors Christmas Parties was another highlight in December on our calendars for every single councillor. I know within the Doughboy ward, we probably get contacted from about July to ensure that people have their tickets to those parties. But this year there was 15 shows, including 3 evening shows, with a total of 14,400 seniors to this sold-out program. And We also heard about Council's Band in the Parks program, and it's been showcasing Brisbane's best community bands right across the city since 1916, so more than 100 years. During December 2024, the free Christmas-themed performances were featured, including Christmas in the Square on the 6th of December and the Banyo Community Christmas Carols on the 7th of December. But unfortunately, due to weather conditions, the Manly Harbour Christmas markets and Yeronga community Christmas parties were cancelled. But if you're ever keen to get bands in the park in your local park, reach out to Helen. She's an incredible advocate and a supporter of this program, and she would love to help you. The Government House Christmas Lights performance was held from the 13th to the 19th and was an extension of the Bands in the Park program. This initiative provided an opportunity for Brisbane community bands to play in front of a large audience with more than 8,400 people in attendance across the week. We also heard a lot about our summer reading program, and it invited people of all ages to participate. The program was held from the 2nd to the 25th of January and saw more than 2,500 participants, and they were challenged to complete a reading bingo card featuring activities such as listen to an audiobook, write a 10-word book review, bring a friend or family member to the library, and for every 3 challenges completed, participants gained entry into a prize draw with the chance to win a book voucher. In addition, Council's libraries also hosted a wide variety of school holiday programs, which I know my children love, but I'm sure many other children right across the city love, including STEM activities, tea and trivia, movie screenings, make and create, tech kids sensory, and so many more. The Kid Librarian was a new initiative that we learnt about last week, actually, and it's really exciting. So, Peer Readers Advisory or Recommend program encourages active engagement within the library. So essentially within our libraries, I think there was 20 libraries to date have included this, and the teen librarians set up their own little display of their favourite books. And they said it's an absolute hit. The kids absolutely love it, and they're always the first books to go in our libraries now. So they're wanting to expand that program to all of our libraries. But yeah, it sounded like an incredible initiative, and thank you to our libraries teams for coming up to that with that one. The $2 Summer Dip initiative saw more than 400,000 visitors to Council's network of aquatic facilities, saving our residents of Brisbane $1 million. The most popular pools, which I found quite interesting, was the Sandgate Aquatic Centre, the Newmarket Olympic Pool, Yeronga Park Memorial Pool, Musgrave Park Swimming Centre, and the Dunlop Park Memorial Swimming Pool in Corinda. So Councillor Johnston's not here, but 2 of her parks are on there, so yeah, it's obviously a hit over in her ward. The Sir Thomas Brisbane Planetarium. So after 18 months of incredible success of the Dark Side of the Moon, we heard about its marketing. More than 50,000 people attended, 650 sessions to their record attendance, and the value for money was the #1 compliment or feedback from this incredible display that we had there.
Councillor Atwood, your time has expired. Further speakers? Councillor Gibney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise today to reaffirm the words of our Deputy Chair, Councillor Atwood. Thank you to Michael McKenna and Simon Alexander, who did a wonderful presentation about the success of the summer program, which shows how the Schrinner Council provides high quality and vast number of events and activities for all the members of our community. I was lucky enough to accompany some of my local residents to the highly anticipated Lord Mayor's Seniors Christmas parties, where over 14,000 seniors enjoyed the Jingle and Jazz concert this year. The ticket sales raised over $60,000 for the Lord Mayor's Charitable Trust, which I know supports many of the incredible causes around our city. MC, Rachel Tiernan, and the whole cast were spectacular. And my local attendees totally enjoyed their afternoon. I actually took Maureen and Les from Wynnum West as my guests to the party, and I drove them into the event, which was a wonderful way to spend the day together. Another holiday success event was the Lord Mayor's Christmas Carols at River Stage. It was such a wonderful event for the residents of Brisbane, and I know my children were particularly excited to see their friends Jackson and Hallie Bowen in the performance. The success of the summer dips was shared with over, like Councillor Atwood said, $1 million worth of savings for 400,000 visitors. I know that my kids, and even the Lord Mayor's kids, who I met there one day by default, love the Manly Pool. Finally, we heard about the programs that are run in our libraries, including the summer reading program and then the Writers in Residence. And I love the Kid Librarian, and I can't wait to speak to Teresa at my Wynnum Library a little bit more about that one, especially how they get to create a display. I think that's fantastic. Wow, what a busy time of year for the team members in Program 5. Thank you to Simon and Michael for sharing all the fabulous things that we offer our city. Thanks.
Further speakers? Councillor Atwood, right of reply. We'll now put that to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. It's carried. Deputy Mayor, Finance and City Governance Committee.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I move that the report of the Finance and City Governance Committee meeting held on Tuesday the 18th of February 2025 be adopted.
Seconded.
Has been moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Huang that the report of the Finance and City Governance Committee meeting dated Tuesday 18th of February 2025 be adopted. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Last week, our committee presentation was from the Strategic Procurement Office to provide an update on both the procurement market and procurement activity within Council. It was a timely and informative presentation given the very challenging external market conditions which impact not only Council but governments, businesses and households right around the world. The committee was given an overview of the market movements in the December quarter of 24, which highlighted changes to a range of key inputs. Reinforced steel and ready-mix concrete are, as we know, important building blocks for our city infrastructure. The committee learned that the cost of these commodities are still high, with the price of steel being driven primarily by increased labour costs flowing through to the purchase price. Concrete was also in a similar boat, with the price increase being driven by elevated manufacturing costs from both energy and transport. The committee were also provided with an update on how Council's buy local policy is tracking for this financial year. As we know, our Shrinner Council is committed to being Australia's most small business friendly local government. A key pillar of the Shrinner Council's plan to support and grow business and industry in Brisbane is this buy local procurement policy. The policy backs in Brisbane businesses, ensuring local suppliers are given the best opportunity to deliver Council services and projects for our city. We've set a strong and accountable target for 80% of Council's total procurement budget to be spent with Brisbane and South East Queensland located suppliers. We increased the local benefits weighting to 30% for all public tenders, and for all quotes for projects under $200,000, they must be sought from local suppliers. We want to ensure the significant work that Council undertakes benefits local businesses, supports local jobs and in turn supports our residents. Madam Chair, the committee learnt that we are indeed on track to exceed this target, with 85% of procurement expenditure between July last year and January this year being sourced locally across 2,403 suppliers. I want to take the opportunity to thank the Strategic Procurement Office for their important work in backing small business in Brisbane, and I commend the report to the Chamber.
Further speakers? No further speakers. We'll put that to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. It's carried. Councillors, are there any petitions? Councillor Hutton.
Chair, I have a petition in regards to negligent pet owners.
Councillor Wines.
Madam Chair, I've got a petition here seeking a publication of speed awareness monitor data.
Councillor Strunk.
Thank you, Chair. I have a petition here that Councillor Johnson asked me to present for some residents who are wanting a layover removed or relocated from King Arthur Terrace.
Councillor Dixon, may I have a motion for the receipt of petitions?
Yes.
Chair, I move that the petitions as presented be received and referred to the committee concerned for consideration and report.
Second.
It has been moved by Councillor Dixon and seconded by Councillor Strunk that all petitions as presented be received and referred to the committee concerned for consideration and report. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Councillors, are there any statements required as a result of an Office of the Independent Assessor or Councillor Ethics Committee order? We'll now move to general business. Any speakers? Councillor Addaman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I rise to publicly acknowledge residents of the Port Vale ward who were recently honoured with Australia Day awards. These range from recipients of the Lord Mayor's Australia Day Awards and national honours through to those who were simply winners by becoming Australian citizens on our National Day of celebration. First, it was a pleasure to attend the Lord Mayor's Awards and witness the Brookfield Show being named the most popular local community event in Brisbane last year. For more than 100 years, and with apologies to my colleague Councillor Adams, who's not here at the moment, Brisbane's Best Little Country Show has provided an important link between Brookfield's rural past and present. After suffering from COVID and wet weather for 2 years in a row, the 2024 show demonstrated its importance to our local community, attracting more than 30,000 patrons over 3 days. In accepting the award, former Show Society President Dan Petrie acknowledged that a key to its success was the support provided by local volunteers and local community organisations, as well as the Shriner Council, which has been a long-time supporter of this event. The second recipient was Professor Neville Marsh from Moggill, who oversaw the memorial honouring the 50th anniversary of the 2 defence personnel tragically killed, helping local residents stranded in the 1974 flood. Professor Marsh spent more than 1,000 hours over 2 years working with a range of stakeholders to organise the event, which culminated with the unveiling of the memorial at Booker Place Park, Bellbarry, last year. It was a pleasure to work closely with Professor Marsh on this project to secure the funding for the memorial and to nominate him for this award. Chair, I also want to congratulate the 4 local residents who were recognised in the recent Australia Day honours list. They are the Venerable Heather Toon of Kenmore Hills, who received her Order of Australia for service to the Anglican Church, Beverly Smith of Corana Downs, who received her OAM for service to the museums and gallery sector, Catherine Lawrence of Port Vale, who received her OAM for services to tertiary education, and Alan Gillott of Chapel Hill, who received his Honorary Member of Order of Australia for service to golf and women's sport. Chair, I've known Mrs Toon for more than 40 years and remember when she began her journey in Rockhampton to be ordained as a deacon in the Anglican Church. It was unheard of at the time, but many women who are now Anglican deacons today can thank Heather for helping pave the way for them to achieve their dreams. Chair, it should be acknowledged that Mrs Toon is the grandmother of Councillor Collier. And it was a really nice moment recently when 2 Brisbane City Councillors were able to visit Mrs Toon at the same time to offer our congratulations. And finally, I want to congratulate the 50 new Australians to whom I presented their certificates of citizenship at the Moggill State School on Australia Day, the 26th of January. As those on this side of the chamber know, presiding at Australia Day or at citizenship ceremonies on that day each year is one of the great joys of being a councillor. I was pleased to be joined by the state member for Moggill, Dr Christian Rowan, but sadly the federal Greens member for Ryan was again not present at our local citizenship ceremony. I can only conclude that her ongoing absence from this event is connected to hers and the Greens political party's abhorrence of the Australian flag, which she knew and feared would be proudly on display that day. I'll take that interjection from Councillor Toomey. It is a shame. And more than that, it's a disgrace and bordering on treachery. Thank you.
Further speakers, Councillor Chongwa.
Thank you, Chair. I rise to speak about the River Maiwar and the buildings of our city around it. Brisbane was founded as a penal colony in 1824. In the name of prosperity for the colonialist crown, these lands were stolen through massacres, ethnic cleansing and illegal occupation of the traditional owners, the Yuggera and Turrbal people, from whom this land has never been ceded. When settlers arrived, the flora surrounding the river was dense subtropical rainforest lined with Moreton Bay figs, bunya pines and paper barks. The soil was rich, soft and fertile. The prospect of colonising and capitalising on these rich ecological resources compelled the colonial invaders to completely disregard the well-documented evidence of extreme flooding. And so our history shows this city has been devastated by severe floods in 1841, 1893, 1974, and more recently in 2011 and 2022. The floods in 1841 were nearly double the size of the 2011 floods, and now global warming is causing this river to rise and storms are worsening. Governments tried to tame our natural environment and thus engineers applied their flawed treatments of dredging and straightening the river. This false sense of security ensured that governments and investors could continue to bulldoze vital habitat, subdivide land and profit at the expense of our environment and future residents. Well, it seems that Brisbane is indeed still cursed by the short-sighted greed. This council, led by Mayor Schrinner, still refuses to take the action required to protect future residents. Chair, I'm submitting this document to the Chambers. Here we will see Council's flood awareness map, Council's tool to limit its own liability alongside their inner city growth precinct strategy. At just a glance, it is obvious that the LNP's genius plan to tackle housing is to create the highest density areas in our most disaster-prone land. Now, this was no surprise to me, as this chamber would know very well. The Greens have long been the sole voice for sensible, sustainable development that puts long-term planning for livable neighbours ahead of short-term revenue-raising exercises. But what does this council's high-rises on floodplains strategy look like in practice? Well, as I mentioned in my earlier question, the body corporate manager of a new award-winning high-rise building in Milton contacted my office in December, distressed that their ground level had flooded. This building was settled just over 2 years ago. When the council investigated, their report said the drainage was clean and clear, and there was no drainage issues that require further work. Well, we now have over 300 new residents that have discovered council has led them to buy brand new units in an area that will likely flood repeatedly into the future. Sure, Floodwise property report shows there were historic floods of 6 metres in 2011 and 4.7 metres in 2022. But is that buyer, desperate for new housing in a crisis, manufactured by the two major parties, going to take the gamble? We know that they will. We know that they have no other choice thanks to the LNP's unsustainable planning. Here's a quote from Mayor Schrinner discussing floodplains. The only real solution for some of those areas will be for everyone to move out. There's no drain that can fix it. So why, Lord Mayor, are you actively incentivising high-rise development on our most high-risk flood-prone land? We have a systemic problem. Our major parties are putting residents in the path of destruction, all for the appearance of resolving a housing crisis. And we know that people benefiting most from upzoning on floodplains are the council's wealthy developer mates. Thank you, Chair.
Further speakers. Councillor Parry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise to speak on an event I held on the weekend, the Chermside West Neighbourhood Watch Family Fun Day. So a little over a year ago, I met with the wonderful Sergeant Jodie Murray, who's our Gateway District Crime Prevention Coordinator. And we were having a chat about some of the local issues. Obviously, crime came up, but also I think, which was quite pertinent in our realm, was that a lot of our local neighbourhood watch groups were falling over, just due to a lack, I think, of volunteers, which we, as councillors, I think, I won't speak for all of us, but I suppose I will saying this, but we're finding that a lot of volunteer organisations are losing some of that man and woman power. It's not as active as it used to be. So we had a chat about what we could do to try and improve things and improve some of those connections, and I met with the Neighbourhood Watch Group, who have been running it for over 35 years, so quite a significant amount of time. And for people who know Chermside West, it's a very tight-knit community. It is a wonderful area where I think families have grown up over the last 35, 40 years, and some of those people have moved on, downsized, and new families are coming in. So we wanted to try and create a way to engage some of those new families in this wonderful neighbourhood watch group. So what we decided to embark on, which has taken us a little while, was arranging a family fun day in the very popular Frederick Annan Park, which is a beautiful spot for those who know it, and it has lots of local homes and a school and a kindergarten, everything nearby. So it was the ideal place to host a family fun day in partnership with the local police and, of course, the Neighbourhood Watch. So we worked with Kosh and Joe and Loma, who Loma turned 90 last week. Happy birthday, to Loma. Yeah, you couldn't tell, she's so fabulous. And yes, and she is someone who was in the Neighbourhood Watch when she moved there, I think close to 40 years ago. So she's kept it going. They informed me, and it was the process to get this thing going. She informed me they used to print all of their newsletters and hand deliver them, and could I go and do that for them? Unfortunately, I couldn't get around to those 1,000 houses, but we did use the internet, which was amazing, and we did use a lot of volunteer person power to get around and deliver some leaflets that we printed in my office to get people there. So on the day, we had around 400 people that came along to the Family Fun Day. There was a jumping castle, there was a sausage sizzle that was run by the amazing Chermside Borough Scouts. I will mention Tony and Stuart, Justin and Elizabeth and their brood were all there cooking sausages, selling drinks, and also selling delicious preserves. And we had, of course, as I mentioned, the Neighbourhood Watch, Loma, Kosh and Joe. We had Sergeant Jodie Murray, and we had Senior Constable Kim Richter, who's another legend who I've worked very closely with in our running mobile police beats and sort of being there in the community. People are concerned about crime. That's not a secret. You can go into any Facebook group, community Facebook group and understand that. But these women work so hard and they connect with all of us. And of course Melissa from Melissa K Face Painting, and she was possibly the most popular person there. We had two police vehicles, which the kids were amazed by. Unfortunately, my children went into the back of the car and not the front, which concerned me a little bit. The other thing that I will give a dishonourable mention to Sergeant Murray and Senior Constable Kim Richter for is that they encouraged me to run in the speed race, because they use a speed gun to test how fast you can go. She said it would be my Lady Di moment, and Di was a word I would use, but spelled differently. And I got to 18 kilometres an hour. Wow. And yeah, thank you. That's right. But my 4-year-old son got 14 kilometres an hour, and he's barely a metre tall. So I'm in training for next year's event. I'm hoping to break the 20-kilometre barrier. But look, it was a wonderful day, and I think it just demonstrates that there was so much interest from those new local families that have just moved in that may have not been aware of what the Neighbourhood Watch does and what it can mean to a community. So we're really excited about those new memberships coming in and rebuilding this group. So all in all, what I would say is thank you to everybody who volunteered, everybody who showed up. I hope you had a wonderful time, and I can't wait to do it again next year. Thank you.
Further speakers, Councillor Cassidy.
Thanks very much, Chair. I rise to speak on council workers and the Brisbane app. First of all, I just wanted to put on record our thanks to council workers, the amazing people who make council work, whether they're bus drivers or city cat operators, concreters, gardeners, arborists, people who work in our libraries or in our call centres, out in the waterways of Brisbane, or our public space liaison officers. And there's so many others out there who are dedicating their working lives to serving the people of Brisbane. Labor values you and thanks you and thinks that you deserve every cent you are seeking in this EBA negotiation. If LNP councillors think they deserve a wage increase with back pay, so do workers. And that's our position here.
That's right.
When it comes to the Brisbane app, Chair, something interesting happened at the start of the meeting. Councillor Allen claimed that he had absolutely nothing to do with the Brisbane app, and because it somehow apparently now is not part of the Brisbane Economic Development Agency. It wasn't always with the Brisbane Economic Development Agency. Sure, it's something that Council developed and engaged an external contractor to do, but on the 22nd of November 2023, that app was transferred over to the Brisbane Economic Development Agency, and the Lord Mayor announced that with great fanfare. And the CEO of BEDA, Anthony Ryan, said the app would be a great, this is his words, a great addition to the existing Visit Brisbane offerings. He said they're excited to integrate the Brisbane app into the Visit Brisbane ecosystem, enhancing their ability to showcase the city's diverse local businesses, events and experiences, and good on them, and that's fair enough to do that. The only problem is in Councillor Allen saying he didn't seem to know that, despite being in the new elevated role he is in, overseeing the Brisbane Economic Development Agency. Very strange. And Councillor Cunningham saying in answer to the question that she was asked, she talked about everything but the Brisbane app, unfortunately. So just some interesting stats, and we heard some from Councillor Cunningham, in response to the answer she gave, and the Lord Mayor later saying how great, in their opinion, the Brisbane app is. And they obviously would defend it because they spent $4 million developing it and advertising it. And, you know, when you spend that amount of money advertising and the kind of levels of advertising of it we saw back in 2023, you would expect some high download numbers and high usage numbers. And compared to today, we didn't think they were particularly impressive at the time, but I guess if you compare them to today, they actually were. People were spending up to 5 minutes on a session on the Brisbane app, which would suggest to you that when they opened the Brisbane app, they were in fact looking for things to see and do. They were looking at local businesses and experiences that were being uploaded on there. According to Councillor Cunningham, what did she say? Hundreds of thousands of Brisbane businesses, is her quote, hundreds of thousands of Brisbane businesses are benefiting from the Brisbane app. We just don't buy it anymore because when you look at the stats, people are spending a minute on it now. A minute on it. So for $4 million, we've now seen, as this app's handed over to the Brisbane Economic Development Agency, the LNP have dropped it entirely because it was a great let's face it, a great advertising tool ahead of a council election to be able to justify spending on more advertising. They've dropped the ball. Brisbane Economic Development Agency don't really want a bar of it. They'll accept the product, but they're not doing anything to use it as an economic development tool. And the facts are in the stats, aren't they? Where we see a declining number of downloads, an increasing number of uninstalls, and a declining time spent on the app. And when you start to look at some of the downloads and uninstalls and the consistent, 1 minute, 14 seconds or whatever it is each and every month, it starts to present a little too uniform as well, a little too like it's being dominated maybe by bots or something like that to pump up the numbers. But given Councillor Cunningham and Councillor Allen can't sort of figure out who's in charge of what there, given that Councillor Cunningham thinks that there's hundreds of thousands of businesses who are advertising on the Brisbane app, quote unquote, I think there are certainly more answers for them to give around the Brisbane app, given the ratepayers of Brisbane spent $4 million of their money on this app.
Further speakers? Councillor Howard.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I rise to speak about the Brisbane Greeters and about some of the wonderful things that are happening in our Brisbane arts sector. So, Brisbane Greeters have only just celebrated their 13th birthday on St Valentine's Day, and I was pleased to join them, and I know that they've met with the CEO as well. They are such an amazing group of people, and I want to say a huge happy birthday. I know I'm a little bit late, but it's better late than never, and so I also promised them faithfully that I would read into the minutes the fact that we have Gail, who always writes a poem for the greeters each year. So these are words from Gail herself. She says, Gail has shot through to South America, but not before penning us a poem. So it says, happy birthday, Brisbane Greeters. OMG, I hear you say, how quick this past year slipped away. Don't matter though, greeters are here today to celebrate another birthday. I can't be here to join the repartee, though I know you'll have a great party. South America is where I'll be, but I'll spare some thoughts for the wonderful BGs. The amazing Alex will have things all sorted so you can all get up to your usual cavorting. Just make sure you have a drink for me and savour something very yummy. All the best, Brisbane Greeters. Have a fabulous celebration. I'll catch up in March. So that was from Gail, and I promised faithfully that I would talk to her about that. Now, I do want to talk about a couple of amazing things that have just happened recently. So Councillor Chongwa and I last night were at the Matilda Awards, and I know that Councillor Chongwa was very excited because I think one of her groups, and I've got to get this right so that I say the right words, the right group, and I've got to find them. Here we go. Scenes from a Yellow Peril won a couple of awards, and then was very good. Everyone was excited. I thought that Councillor Chongwa was going to jump out of her seat at one stage, but it was a fantastic night. And can I say a huge thank you to the organisers of the Matilda Awards. They've been running for 38 years. It was their 37th awards because it took them a year to get there. But there were 22 awards on the night, and that is just amazing to think that we can celebrate 22 of our fantastic people across Brisbane. I was absolutely honoured to present the Lord Mayor's Award for the Best New Australian Work, and that went to Blue, and that was with the playwright Thomas Weatherall, and it was his inaugural play, and I did have the privilege of seeing that at Le Bois, and it is just amazing. And so please keep an eye out for Thomas Weatherall. I think he's going to be a huge star into the future, but it was fantastic. I also want to say a huge thank you to the Queensland Symphony Orchestra and Circa, who again had the most amazing performance. And every time I see Circa perform, I'm just blown away by what they do. It was just fantastic. And we also had the Queensland Theatre Pride and Prejudice. Now, yet again, it just is so great to see local artists performing so well, and for standing ovations on both of those events. And the Pride and Prejudice actually launched up in Toowoomba and at the Empire Theatre, and apparently it's to sold-out audiences. And so it was just amazing that we were able to have all of these shows happening in Brisbane just recently. So I just want to let everyone know that Brisbane is alive and well. All of our wonderful arts organisations are back. There's some amazing things happening. Next week, Opera Queensland will be launching Cinderella. Looking forward to that. And I really encourage each and every one of you to get along and really support our local artists. Thank you.
Further speakers? Councillor Strunk.
Right. Almost trapped by my own coat. Yes, Chair, I rise to speak on one item, and that is a visit that I and Councillor Kim made to the Willawong bus depot last Thursday morning, really early, 4 a.m. Councillor Kim was there at 4 a.m. I got there at 5. Youth. Anyways, we were there in support of the drivers and their EB negotiations, because Once I got to speak to a number of the drivers and just listen to, how they've been really struggling on the wages that they're actually on, the hourly rate that they're actually on, and there's a few other things too I want to bring up in the 5 minutes that I have. I was blown away when I said, well, what is the hourly rate for a starting driver, right? And then a more senior driver. And they said, well, the range is anywhere from $32 to $35 an hour. And quite frankly, I was shocked. I came from the retail trade, and not that many years ago, we were at that sort of wage anyways, as a person just selling on a floor, right? And then I said to one of my team, I said, I wonder what the McDonald's, because they're a really good corporate employer, I wonder what they're paying in an hourly rate as well. And so we looked it up. It's all on the website, right? You can look it up. Their cooks earn the same amount as our drivers do, right? And when you think about what our drivers do, I don't know how long those buses are, 20 meters or so, right? Going around the streets of Brisbane, where the congestion is an issue, pedestrians are an issue sometimes, and those dodgy cars, that people are weaving in and out trying to get around the bus and all the rest of it. The amount of stress that those guys go through and girls go through is, I think, quite astounding. And there's and sometimes there is accidents that happen that really impacts on their mental health as well, and very little, there's the delay in actually receiving some treatment for that is really sad. Is really sad because they obviously they wake up to the next morning or the next week or whatever that they're back in the bus again. They're really struggling with that. The other thing I was quite blown away with was especially the Willawong depot, right? And how poorly we treat our drivers there at that particular depot, right? Now, the canteen in this depot for 350 drivers that come through, and we heard about Main Freight's new depot, right? The canteen's been closed for 3 years. 3 years. They've had to either bring their lunches or whatever, their dinners, or their smokers or whatever, or there's just no shops around. It's out in the middle of an industrial estate, and there's just no shops. So, and then what they've got to put their food into, right, is reached its end of life. The refrigeration is not really too crash hot. It's pretty old, decrepit. What's the word? Decapitated or whatever that word is. But also the microwaves are not so crash out either, so they're probably end of life as well. So I just say to the chair that looks after transport, I think maybe you should get out there and actually have a look at the conditions that these drivers, Main Freight actually put on showers, lockers, right, breakout areas, a gym. Well, I don't know about a gym though. I didn't read that in the presentation, but they probably do. Now, all of our other depots have gyms, but not Willawong. What's going on? And Willawong is the biggest depot across the network, so I'm told. If it's not the biggest, it's one of the biggest. And they look after about 350 drivers over a period of time, a week or whatever. So it's just an amazing, if you say compare that to, say, Sherwood Depot, which is one of the newer depots, of course, and if you just compare the conditions at both depots, right, I think Willawong needs some more investment, right? Now, I really support the drivers in their wage increase because I think they do the work that many of us would never do and probably couldn't do, right? Driving one of those big buses, especially around the Brisbane streets as well. I know that I couldn't probably do it, honestly. I'd just be stressed all the time trying to make sure I'm not going to run into anything or back into something, They're quite an amazing group, and the other thing is that a lot of them have to work many extra hours to be able to keep a roof over their head.
Dixon?
Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I wish to rise on one item of general business, Neighbour Day. So last year for Christmas, I decided to offer residents an opportunity to connect with their neighbours with an initiative called Christmas with Your Neighbours. Residents were able to nominate their street for a get-together. It was a astounding success, and residents from Pinkenba to Hendra received a Nibbles pack and a Dillon's Gallery of Meats voucher. I even had the pleasure of attending some of these gatherings before Christmas. It was amazing to see the friendship and connection in the Hamilton ward. So due to its popularity, I thought it would be a good idea to offer this opportunity again for upcoming Neighbour Day on the 30th of March. Modern day life often means that sometimes we don't get a chance to get to know our neighbours. Often we're busy with work, wrangling children, life in general. So Neighbour Day raises awareness about how fulfilling it can be to connect with your neighbours and also to combat loneliness. This year's Neighbour Day theme is Create, Share, Grow, Belong. And as the local councillor, I thought I might give the residents another opportunity to host their Neighbour Day get-together. Already, I've received a lot of eager residents wishing to nominate their street. I look forward to choosing 5 lucky residents to host their party soon. Sadly, loneliness is a common problem in our community, and I hope these gatherings will go a small step towards strengthening connection in our community and the start of many more neighbourhood get-togethers. I look forward to reporting back to the Chamber about the success of Neighbour Day in the Hamilton ward. Thank you.
Further speakers. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Chair. I rise to speak on one item, which is reflections on this meeting. Today we finished and got through every committee before 4 p.m. And here we are in general business, which has gone longer than most of the committees today. And, you know, it's clear why. We had one item in ENC. The Transport Committee was a presentation on new network coordination centre. Inner city infrastructure was inner city projects. City planning was a code accessible material change of use for a warehouse, transport depot and high impact industry. Environment was about Newstead House, which was, you know, cool, but it was about Newstead House. Recycling, again, there could have been things in there, but recycling, and we all know how far behind Brisbane as a city is in relation to recycling and our food waste. Arts and culture was about summer success, but of course no mention of the dire cuts in library services and redundancies. And of course financial government, an update on procurement, and procurement is important. But you wouldn't say that any of these topics were incredibly debatable or that there was much in it. And the thing is, what I find very interesting, and I do commend them, it's, you know, is that the ALP choose this very empty agenda to make a stand. And we finished very quickly. There was very little debate. It comes as no surprise that the majority of Liberal councillors didn't speak on any items, of course, other than Councillor Marks and Councillor Givney, through you, Chair. And it's because the agenda was empty, 1. And 2, this is fairly common in these chambers. Empty agendas, lack of transparency and information.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Point of order,
Will the
Councillor
councillor
Adams.
take a question?
No, it's general business.
Thank you. No, she does not. Thank you.
And this is, and no backbenchers speaking, this is pretty common. The LNP mega majority in here means that the majority of work and the decisions aren't made in these chambers. It's all pretty much a formality. And so much of the debate basically falls within 2 categories of this chambers. 1, the LNP administration underplaying their lack of deliveries and delays to projects. At the same time, however, glorifying a various series of projects, which in truth are usually delayed or well over budget, but nonetheless, there's some really good projects there. Or the LNP and ALP councillors going in on each other in horrifically personal and political attacks. Sometimes also attacks to people that are not in these chambers, as demonstrated just early here in general business by Liberal National Political Party member, Councillor Alderman. With local meeting laws being changed and the LNP administration doing less, as demonstrated in this meeting. and interestingly with the LNP not responding, which interestingly enough has changed very little of what has happened here today. These chamber meetings and our ability to engage in robust debate is made redundant. The LNP and the ALP have all the resources, not only in relation to the administration, but also in relation to extra staffing. The Greens don't receive any extra staffing. In fact, we don't even receive a sufficient office in council. And yet, the LNP and the ALP do love to mention us, specifically the LNP, over and over and over again. And I think I have a suspicion why. For the LNP, it's because the Greens, which is a political party, are based in community, and we understand the need for solidarity to amplify marginalised voices and to consult with community to deliver better results for all. This year, just gone past since the election, I've been contacted by residents just across the city on a variety of subjects, groups of residents in Central Ward, Marchant, Maruka, Jamboree, Cooperage, to mention a few. And there are a range of issues that they've contacted me on. But what's been prevalent is a dissatisfaction and their feeling of being ignored by this council administration. I think today's meeting, my last reflection on this meeting is that the two-party system is broken. And it's been never more obvious than the meeting that we've had today.
Further speakers? Councillor Murphy.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I want to just firstly just reflect on the speech that Councillor Strunk made before in the Willawong depot. He made a number of remarks about the bus depots. I'm personally very glad that Councillor Strunk has gotten out to a bus depot. I'm not sure, Councillor Strunk, is that your first visit to a bus depot? That was the first visit to a bus depot. So, okay, first visit to Willawong. Well, Councillor, through you, Madam Chair, I've been to many bus depots in my 6 years in this role. And I can tell you, Councillor Strunk, Willawong is actually one of the best bus depots when it comes to how it is equipped, the layout of the facility, the modernity of the driver, particularly the driver-facing facilities. And I went out to that depot quite a lot because Councillor Owen often had me out at that bus depot. She did, and we all remember Councillor Owen. And she was many things, Councillor Kim, but she was very much dedicated to our bus drivers. And I'm very glad that you and Councillor Strunk have gone out to the Willawong depot and are meeting with the drivers there. What I will say is bus driver depot canteen economics is a very specific and particular issue. And Councillor Strunk, thanks to your contribution, I will now be bringing a presentation on bus depot canteen economics to the Transport Committee in the coming weeks for us to discuss the very tight and delicate balancing act that canteen operators will often have to traverse in providing enough of a sustainable product to our drivers and making money to continue operating, because these operations are often a lot smaller than school tuck shops and their profit margins are very slim. And historically, we have had a revolving door of canteen operations at nearly all of our depots. These operators sometimes do find it very difficult to turn a profit, and so it is not always the easiest thing to keep them sustainable. So we have some depots where the canteens operate and they operate very well, and other depots where they struggle, and other depots where they've not been able to make it stack up, and so we don't have a canteen operation there. And so very much across our 7 depots, the drivers have a different experience at each depot, and Willawong is no different, but I'm happy to bring a presentation. Oh.
Point of order, Councillor Kim.
Will Councillor Murphy take a question?
Sure.
Councillor Strunk and I are just wondering, if we invite you along to the Willawong depot, would you be open to coming along with us and speaking with bus drivers on the site together like you did with the former councillor?
Of course. Of course, Madam Chair. I talk with drivers all the time, and I talk with drivers and our councillors in this room all the time, so I'm more than happy to do that. I will note, Councillor Kim, that the first person that ever invited you to a depot was, I think, me, to the Rochedale depot, and you had a great time. You loved it, you and Councillor Collier. So not afraid of accepting your invitation the same way that you accepted mine. Now, just very quickly on Councillor Massey's contribution, I actually think this was a fantastic meeting. Madam Chair, this was a great meeting. Whatever point was trying to be made here, I think please make this point more often. This is a tremendous meeting. I think everyone had a lot of fun. I think, you know, it's important to me. Councillor Wines often makes this point. The work is not necessarily the chamber. Our work is in our community. We are not legislators. We are councillors. And our work is in our wards. And any time that we spend here is taken away from our wards. And so it's just important to remember that, yes, the chamber is important, but our communities in the role that we're in local government are more important. So I do not view the work of this chamber through the lens that Councillor Massey might necessarily view it through. And I think others on this side of the chamber feel very much the same way.
Further speakers, Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Chair. I rise to provide an update about my last Suburban Enhancement Fund project that's very close to my heart. It's something that we've been working on for quite a bit, hashing it out with our local police officers. When I first got elected, one of the Callum Police Station officers walked into my office and he provided this long report that he named Project Eyes on Crime. And he also was very concerned about some of the major road connections where there's currently no CCTV. And so what he asked me was if it's possible somehow to find a way where council could fund some of these extra cameras, because I know some are owned by BCC, some by TMR. I didn't really know where to begin, but essentially called a few officers in council, brought a few police officers together into one room, my two local members as well, and we all had a chat. And essentially I was asking if it's possible to use our Suburban Enhancement Fund to build extra CCTV in our area, and this would be ANPR, so only number plate recognition as well. And essentially the answer to that was yes, so this is what we're proceeding with. And I've been working quite closely with my neighbouring Logan City Councillor, who's Tim Fraser. He invited me along to see the control room in Logan City Council that they have there, where both police officers and also council officers sit in the same room together. I know this is millions of dollars of a project to fund in the outer suburban ring like ours, and it's something we have in the inner city for Brisbane City Council. However, I know that our local police officers really see that as an amazing feature. So when I went to this Logan City Council room, we got quite a bit of inspiration from there, and essentially I meet regularly for a bit of updates about how one of my local Logan City Council neighbours do it, and then essentially that's what we're trying to replicate, so that every single year, using suburban enhancement funding, we build more cameras to facilitate the missing links, where the police have provided me with advice in a report about the best locations to currently do them. So I hope that this project, as it comes to fruition, is constructive and helpful for our community. It's the one way where I can see we actually put it into practice when we say that we care about making sure that our streets are safer. I even drove around with one of the police officers to different locations that he provided in his report to me that he sees as necessary, both in terms of residents where there are lots of incidents and crash reports, but also in terms of break-ins as well, and the certain roads where it's harder for police officers to identify number plates for vehicles that travel down those specific roads. The other thing they did as well was invite me to the police station as well, and I had a look at their current system and their processes as to how they actually use CCTV, how they have to apply for it and then get the data as they do their cases. They did say that BCC is pretty good at that. So what I'm trying to do is just support the pre-existing network, support the pre-existing QPS program, and then provide more funding using suburban enhancement funding, because it was something that I really committed to as I was running for election as well, and I know it's something that many residents brought up to me and wanted to see prioritised with their council rates. Thank you, Chair.
Further speakers, Councillor Toomey.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I rise to just thank Asphalt and Aggregates team for the work that they did over the Christmas break. As an administration, we do like to see Brisbane moving. We like to keep it moving. And I do know that our Asphalt and Aggregates team over the Christmas break, over the summer period, did have some fairly hot weather. They also had some fairly heavy downpours. But listening to what the councillor for Wollongabba said, where, you know, council's not investing, we're not doing this, we're not doing that, it's late, it's over budget. It's all basically horse dung. I did see and met with the officers over the break, and we have now in place one of the largest asphalt machines, brand new acquisition by us, which improves the amount of square metres of asphalt we can put on the road at any one point in time, which makes our ability to renew our roads far more efficient. You know, I was completely impressed. The officers actually gave me the time to talk me through the new machine. You know, it's like 12 metres wide. It's half a cricket pitch. It's awesome. And they did a fantastic job over the Christmas break with the heat. When you look at most of the asphalt that's coming out of the machine, it's sitting at 180 degrees. And over the Christmas break, some of the temperatures during the day got up to about 32. So we're talking about fairly extreme temperatures. And I have to say, the whole team did a fantastic job. Not only, you know, in my area, there were a few other areas that I was keeping my eye on as well. They were either on time or before time in their delivery. The feedback from the residents, because as you can imagine, renewing a road does cause some disruption to the residents. The feedback from the residents was the officers were outstanding. The residents knew what was going on, they knew when it was going on. They were spoken to, they were consulted, they were advised on what was happening. And it really was a real pleasure to actually listen to the residents give this feedback. It's something that we do as a council. We look after our community. And when we have a community of officers looking after our community, it makes our job just that little bit easier. And these guys were delivering exceptional service under exceptional circumstances. And I do really want to pass on my thanks because they did an outstanding job. Thank you.
Further speakers, Councillor Collier.
Thanks very much, Chair. I just have one item of general business to talk about tonight, and that is an important choice that the people of the inner south side will soon have to make. I personally have known Renee Coffey, who is Labor's candidate for Griffith, for many, many years now. And what I can tell you about Renee is that she is a local mum of two. She is a former PNC president. She is a multi-generational, actually lifelong local with deep, deep roots in our community. She is a volunteer on countless community groups, kids sporting organisations, you name it. And she also has incredible values. She has dedicated her professional life to being such an incredible advocate for incredibly vulnerable people. She has been the CEO of a national youth mental health charity, and previously was in the leadership team of a charity that delivered educational opportunities for First Nations children. And it is such a pleasure to work alongside her for my community in the inner south side, alongside, of course, Di Farmer, who is our state member. And what Renee stands for is real action. She knows that there are real cost of living pressures that are affecting everyone, especially in our community. And so she is fighting for things like cheaper childcare, real action on housing, cheaper visits to the doctor, for example. I know a lot of people are really excited about Labor's announcement about that over the weekend. And there's more to do, of course, but our community over the past few years really has been let down, and I am actually bowled over by the amount of people who come and speak to myself and Di, and we're known as, you know, very active members in our community. We are at the opening of an envelope, really, and people are actually falling over themselves to tell us how they have been let down, how promises have been unkept, how they have been, they describe it as buyer's remorse, that they voted for someone who said they were going to deliver a lot and have failed at every single opportunity. This federal election, which could be, you know, called at any moment really, is a really important choice that people in Griffith will have to make. They will have to make a choice between someone who has runs on the board and has dedicated
their entire working life to progress, not protest. And that is why Di Farmer and I are absolutely supporting Renee Coffey. There is strong community support behind her as well, and you can see it. You can see it every time, honestly, you leave the house. People are falling over themselves to say how much they think she is an incredible community champion, and that is the choice that people will have when they vote Labor at the next federal election.
Further speakers. Councillor Marks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, it's gone back. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to speak. I want to give our condolences to Councillor Griffiths on the passing of his father, a Runcorn Family Fun Day, and I'm going to copy my apologies, Councillor Collier, and endorse my candidate for Moreton. So, firstly, I want to start by...
One moment, please, councillors. Serious moment.
Firstly, I want to start by acknowledging our condolences to Councillor Griffiths on the passing of his father. I have personally reached out to Sue, who works for Councillor Griffiths and has done for a number of years, and passed on our personal condolences. I know he's very, he was a councillor employee, and
one moment, please, Councillor. Councillor Johnston, you are not at the microphone. It is not your turn to speak. So I ask you to stop speaking. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Marks.
Thank you. The other comment I was going to make was on the Runcorn Family Fun Day, and that was held last weekend, and I want to pass on my thank you to my council staff in my office, Fiona, Michelle and Heidi, for the amount of work that they did in organising that day. It's always a busy day. It takes a lot of organising to do, and I know we had many hundreds of residents coming throughout the day. It was very hot, so the snow cones were going at a rate of knots, but everybody that I spoke to enjoyed their day very much. And again, we have this every year in February, and I'm very grateful to the residents for coming along and supporting it. I also want to briefly mention, so we have an LNP candidate for Moreton by the name of Henry Swindon. He's a great guy. He did 2 services in Afghanistan. He's been out with me in the local community since before last year through Christmas. And I know that, obviously everyone knows that the previous federal member is retiring, and that I know that Henry will do a fabulous job in representing the people of Moreton. Thank you.
Further speakers? As there are no further speakers, that now ends the meeting. Thank you.